Okay, if I could get everyone to, it's our councillors that seem to be the challenge here. This doesn't happen in King, does it, Councillor Eek? No, it does not. And we will not invite Councillor Eek to the podium because she does not need a microphone. Council, if I can call the meeting to order, please. It is just about 1 minute after 7. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? Councillor Peary, thank you. Second, Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions on the agenda? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, we will start with presentations. The first up is Aaron Rogers with the aforementioned Councillor Eek from our good neighbors, the Township of King.
Hello, my name is Jessica Kerr and I work with the South Lake Foundation. Aaron was unable to be here with us tonight, but we do have Councillor Avia Eek and Jacqueline. They are both members of our Run Committee. South Lake Regional Health Center means so much to so many people. Our Regional Cancer Center is still ranked #1 out of 14 regional cancer centers in the province by Cancer Care Ontario based on 16 provincial performance indicators. South Lake has the 3rd largest cardiac program in Ontario. More than 120,000 patients have received advanced cardiac care at South Lake over the past 12 years. More than 110,000 patients visit the emergency department in 2015. Despite increasing volumes, patients are seen on average by a doctor in 40 minutes. This is the shortest wait time to see a doctor in Ontario, and we have maintained this standard for 3 years. South Lake has the privilege of welcoming 2,600 babies into this world every single year. In 2015, more than 24,000 ambulatory surgeries and 13,000 OR surgeries were performed, making South Lake home to the 5th largest regional thoracic cancer surgery program in Ontario. South Lake Mental Health Department welcomes more than 20,000 adult outpatients and 11,000 child and adolescent visits every year. Did you know that 33% of group homes in Ontario are in York Region? 8 of those are within walking distance of South Lake. In July, we broke ground to the 10-bed Margaret Bain Hospice for York Region. At the hospice, it will be a comfortable, home-like environment for 250 patients from our community every year. They will live out their final days in a comfortable environment with access to 24/7 care. The first patient is expected in November of this year. South Lake depends on the community to stay on the cutting edge of healthcare. We believe everyone should have access to healthcare right here close to home. Your support allows us to provide that.
Just to go over some of the logistics for this event, this is the 15th anniversary, of course, of the Run Walk for South Lake, and we wanted to tie the race back to the hospital as a reminder of what we're raising money for. So this year, a major change, the race is actually taking place down Davis Drive, running right under the iconic South Lake Bridge. We're very excited about this. We encourage the entire family to come out to the run, and there will be all kinds of activities for children, of course, including a bouncy castle, face painting, and in addition to other family-friendly activities. Early bird registration is $40 before March 1st, so we still have some time for that. Students are $20, and everyone is encouraged to fundraise, of course. The top fundraisers will be awarded at the race as well. Each registered participant will receive a 15th anniversary technical t-shirt, bib, and chip timer, as well as a medal when they cross the finish line.
Good evening, Mayor Daw and members of council. I almost feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because we have Councillor Humphreys and Councillor Thompson, who also sit on our Run Walk for South Lake, and of course Mayor Daw sits on the hospital board of directors. So I am preaching to the choir about the importance of raising funds for the hospital that supports us and provides quality care, first class, first rate quality care close to home. But now down to why I'm here. And I see you have. I'm not leaving with it yet. Who's going to go home with this year? The Mayor's Challenge Trophy is back up for grabs. Do you want the trophy to be displayed at your council offices and get all of the bragging rights again for what would be, the third year in a row? Yeah, but I like how humble you're being about it. That's just great. We challenge you to put a team together, fundraise in support of the event. The winning Mayor's Challenge team will be announced at the event by York Region Chairman and CEO Wayne Emerson. Do you accept our challenge? Absolutely. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy your Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much. First of all, may I have a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Tom. Comments or questions for the team fundraising? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Great to see you guys. And I just wanted to add, we're going to win again, but you guys should try. But on a really wonderful note, I just wanted to announce here, in case you haven't heard, but Councillor Eek actually won the Spirit Award on our committee. The Spirit Award is something that the committee embodies all that started this whole fundraising race, which was by a wonderful person named Bob Hartwell. And the race started in his honor, and continuing the tradition to make our hospital as great as it can be. And you absolutely exude that spirit. So I was so excited for you, and congratulations. Wanted to share that with everyone.
Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. I know you'll be doing the rounds. Perhaps you could take a moment just to explain where some of the funds go to that are raised through the race for South Lake.
I thought I said no tough questions.
So all of the funds are dedicated to the Transform a Life Fund. So this goes to all areas of the hospital. It includes buying beds, buying scopes, and buying any other equipment that is needed.
If I may, I think that, my time on the committee, one of the things that I've learned is that often it's the replacement of equipment that doesn't receive provincial funding. And so that's one of the key things that I think many members of the public aren't aware, that the hospital receives provincial funding primarily for the operation, but it's the replacement of all of these necessary equipment and assets that are so essential for us to fundraise for.
Your point's excellent, Councillor Thompson. Hospitals receive 90% for the bricks and mortar, and the rest, including outfitting it, is raised locally. So what you do is extremely important, and we thank you very much for coming out. Councillor Maracus. We have a new system here. We're working our way through the technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have a question for you ladies because I said I would keep it easy for you. I just wanted to thank you for coming and also just wanted to mention that it is sad that we are losing it from the town of Aurora, but I think it's a natural evolution to bring it to the actual hospital and have it running under the bridge there. So I think that's going to turn out be an excellent event. So thank you for coming and good luck on your rounds to the other councils. And good luck on trying to win that cup from us too.
Well, see, the move to Newmarket is actually to assist Mayor Van Bynen with the fundraising. That's how community spirited we are.
You guys have been tremendous partners always in the past, though, so we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. All in favor of receipt of the presentation? Opposed? Thank you very much for coming out. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you do. Our next presentation is some suspicious looking people here. Mr. Ferguson Mobbs, with respect to the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Mr. Mobbs.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is Ferguson Mobbs, and with me tonight I have two colleagues, although they're from different centuries. On my left I have...
My name is Jim Millard. and I portray an officer of the Light Company of the Queen's Rangers during the American Revolution, circa 1777.
And on my right,
My name is Jason Whitmell, and I am portraying a enlisted soldier, 1917, 20th Battalion, Canadian Expeditionary Force in France.
ladies and gentlemen, this year is the 150th anniversary of Canada. It's also the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. The Regimental Council, the Queen's York Rangers, and the Queen's York Rangers are having a special commemorative evening to mark this very special occasion in the history of Canada. And if you see up there, you can see the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. Just hit the right one now. Please. And as you can see, our uniformed gentleman is there, showing the uniform of 1917. Next one, please. Vimy Ridge, in which an awful lot of Canadians will be going there this year because of the specific anniversary of that enormous battle that took place in which Canadians took Vimy Ridge. Over 65,000 Canadians will be going to Vimy Ridge this year. Next one, please. Next one. So the Regimental Council, the Queen's York Rangers, presents a special commemorative evening of the Battle of Vimy Ridge, which is to take place on April the 8th, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the Aurora Legion. As of today, I was able to confirm that our special visitors during this will be the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, Her Honor Elizabeth Dowdeswell, the past Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, Mr. David Onley. Our special guest speaker is going to be the Right Honourable Peter MacKay, and our Master of Ceremonies will be from, I won't say the name of the station, but Mr. Sean Cullen, who's a well-known broadcaster. Throughout the night, we're going to have special poetry readings, special things throughout the entire night, which some of those I'm going to hold back because they're going to be shown in surprises to you later on. The whole evening is an evening. It's an event. It's not just a dinner. So it's planned around the entire event, the entire evening. Our special guest vocalist is Her Honor Ruth Ann Onley. And if you've ever heard this lady sing, she is truly a professional and stands out in her class. So we're extremely excited to have her with us for that evening. Next one, please. As I said, it's going to take place at the Royal Canadian Legion. Next one, please. And I've already announced the special guests, which we just received confirmation today. Thank you. Next one. Again, there's our gentleman in the period uniform of 1917. Next one, please. Both uniforms that were very significant for the Queen's York Rangers at that time, Queen's York Rangers on my right, and the next one, please. Next one. Tickets are online, which I have to say that you can purchase on the Queen's York Rangers kit shop. Just punch it into your computer and it'll come up. Go under this particular poster in order to purchase your tickets. Next one, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mobbs. Thank you very much. And gentlemen, first of all, council motion to receive, please. Presentation, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gartner. Any comments or questions for the presenter? Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw, and thank you, Mr. Mobbs, for coming out, and to the other gentlemen as well. I think this is excellent that you guys are putting this together. It's such an important piece of Canadian history, and along with the 150th anniversary of Confederation, it's certainly something that's worth noting and remembering as well. The 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge. Many historians say it's certainly a birthplace of Canadian identity and Canadian nationalism throughout our history. So it's very important and very. I'm very honored that you're putting this together in our town, and I want to thank you very much.
I have to mention to these gentlemen that my special dinners later on. This is a special day in which they were not with their other halves at the time. So they were kind enough to come out today and sacrifice that, and I'm just telling them to blame everything on me.
And Councillor Gartner, and then Councillor Humphreys, and I will remind Council to push your buttons, please. Councillor Gartner, we're still getting used to our new system, as I said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for coming. And of course, Aurora honors and respects our Queen's York Rangers. How much are the tickets and where does the money go?
The tickets are $125. The money goes directly back to Regimental Council and it goes directly back to the troops.
In what way does it go back to the troops?
There are many different reasons why we get money back to the troops. A lot of those reasons are private. A lot of times it's in order to assist them in different areas on it. So it goes back to the troops in a very tangible way.
In other words, to support them in their living of a quality life.
That's their quality of life is foremost in our concerns.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for coming tonight. And I appreciate you having the event here. So honored that you're going to have such incredible dignitaries at the event. I'm looking forward to it. It happens to be my wedding anniversary, and I'm going to be going there for dinner. So as much as, Valentine's is important, that's an important night, and I think it's a great way to spend and give back to our Queen's York Rangers, who I've had the honor of being involved in some fundraising in the past for Queen's York Rangers. And to your point, the Honourable Annalie will be singing, and she is incredible, really beautiful. So anyways, thank you for sharing and looking forward to the event.
Any other comments, Councillor? All in favor, please? Contrary, that's opposed? Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out. I have no doubt that Mr. Mobbs would love to buy you and your significant other's dinner. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, may I present you with a poster?
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay, Council, we'll move to delegations because our meeting was canceled last week due to weather. We're holding the delegations of Mr. Khan and Ms. McGrath, both of the Aurora Chamber of Commerce tonight. So we'll first invite up Javed Khan, the President. And I'll remind you, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen. The Aurora Chamber of Commerce, as you know, is a membership-based, volunteer-driven, non-for-profit organization whose mission is to lead and serve the Aurora business community. Our goal is to build, drive, and positively influence Aurora's economic landscape. As you know, a few months ago, Councillor Harold Kim put forward an amendment to the current signed bylaw that, if passed, would require one of Canada's official languages be included on all business signage within the town of Aurora. From the onset, Councillor Kim and Town Bylaw Department staff fully engaged the Aurora Chamber of Commerce and its Board of Directors, requesting feedback in an effort to start a conversation outlining our position regarding the amendment. Stemming from the initial meetings, we embarked on an information session in partnership with the Town of Aurora and provided an opportunity to obtain comments from the local business community surrounding the proposal by Councillor Kim. First, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce encourages and supports ongoing growth in the local business community. We believe it is necessary for local businesses to continually increase their customer base in order to grow and thrive. Business signage exclusively utilizing a language other than English or French would prevent a significant percentage of Aurora's population from understanding the goods and services offered. Businesses with foreign language signage could potentially alienate a substantial client base as a result, subsequently limiting their ability to prosper. Second, as a Chamber of Commerce, we also value fair treatment and equal opportunity for all businesses within the town of Aurora. Foreign language business signage that cannot be understood by a significant percentage of our community could prevent that community from having an equal opportunity to take advantage of goods, services, and special offers. Third, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce values inclusiveness in business and an inclusive community at large. As observed in other York Region communities, businesses using foreign language only signage can lead to segregation of ethnic enclaves. Such segregation has the potential to isolate minorities and may be interpreted as unwelcoming to the population of English or French-speaking residents. All Canadians, old or new, need a common language to facilitate communication and ensure an inclusive community. A vibrant and flourishing business community requires a shared language to enable communication and understanding across diverse cultures. Finally, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce values the safety of first responders in our community. First responders could experience increased risk upon entering an unknown business, particularly if the business contains hazardous materials posing additional danger in emergency situations such as fire. It is crucial that establishments in our community be recognizable in one of Canada's official languages to warn first responders of increased potential danger, allowing them to take the necessary precautions before proceeding in emergency situations. The Aurora Chamber of Commerce envisions Aurora as an inclusive community where all types of businesses can succeed and prosper. Therefore, our official position is to support Councillor Kim's signed bylaw amendment to include at least 50% of one of Canada's official languages on all business signage within the beautiful town of Aurora.
Thank you. May I first have a motion to receive and refer to item R7? Councillor Kim, Councillor Tom, comments or questions for the delegate, please. Seeing none, all in favor of receive and refer? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate you coming out. And our next delegation is Vicki McGrath from the Aurora Chamber with respect to item R1. Ms. McGrath, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Daw, members of council, staff, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vicki McGrath. I'm a member of the Board of Directors and Chair of the Advocacy Committee for the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion on a proposed Economic Development Board. I have reviewed the Chief Administrative Officer's staff report on the establishment of the Economic Development Board, and I'm grateful to see a strong connection to the Aurora Chamber of Commerce within the report's recommendations, including that the Aurora Chamber of Commerce be a preferred source of board members. The Aurora Chamber of Commerce represents our business community. We have over 600 business members, including representatives from each of the key economic development areas outlined within the staff report. The Aurora Chamber of Commerce has had the benefit of participating on the current Economic Development Advisory Committee to date, and we look forward to a stronger role on a new Economic Development Board with a more strategic and coordinated approach to economic development that includes key town departments such as planning and transportation. In addition to having representation on the Economic Development Board, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce looks forward to becoming a key resource to staff in economic development decision-making where, for example, Chamber representatives could bring important matters to the business community as a whole, in some cases to our 600-plus Chamber members and business community members, gain greater traction and adoption. In conclusion, I would like to thank the CAO's staff for recommending the Chamber of Commerce members for the Economic Development Board and ask Council to endorse those recommendations.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath. May I have a motion to receive, refer, please? Councillor Prairie, Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions, please? All in favor then? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate it. Council, we have two items on the consent agenda. The council minutes of January the 31st, 2017, and the council public planning minutes of January the 25th, 2017. May I have a motion to receive those, please? Councillor Maracas, Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on those two items? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We'll move into the regular items. We'll move right to R1. If someone would put that on the floor, I would appreciate it, please. I'm sorry, Councillor Perry, did you have your hand up? Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, second. Speakers, please. Speakers to the item, please. I'm sorry. Apparently, Councillor Perry is on the list. Councillor Perry, my apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to waste too much time. I think it's important that we talk to the current advisory committee and just have them give their input on these terms of reference. So I'll actually just ask right off the hop if we can refer this to the next meeting of the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, and then have this back to us for what I believe is the first cycle in March.
I will go to the CAO.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. It was our intention to bring this to the EDAC committee, and if council wishes to have that happen first before council looks at it, that's fine.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I just think it's a timing issue. So if we approve this here tonight without having the committee's input, is it even worthwhile to have their input? So I'd rather just go out to the committee, receive their comments, and then it'll be taken when we move forward on this item. So that's the motion.
To refer to the next EDAC meeting?
Correct.
Is there a second for that, please? Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions on Councillor Perry's motion to refer? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And then I realize, pardon me, I just realized that there's some people here with respect to the Canadian Tire issue, the rezoning. So that is item R6. If I could ask someone to move that forward, please, Councillor. I'm sorry? Councillor, just moving it forward. Councillor Thompson, second, to move it forward for discussion. Somebody, please. Councillor Humphreys, thank you. All in favor of moving this forward? Contrary? That's carried. Would someone put this on the floor, please? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Second. Councillor Perry, comments? Speakers, please press your button. Councillor Maracas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure, I mean, maybe I could ask Mr. Ramuno, through you to Mr. Ramuno. It's my understanding that this property has actually been put up for sale.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Councillor Maracas.
So in my mind, I don't think we should be making any changes if the property's up for sale. I think we should just, if it gets sold, let that applicant come before us and put forward what they're looking to do with that property. I just don't think it's right for us to be making changes before it's sold. So I'll be voting against making any amendments.
Thank you. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in the background on page 2, we had an application for a zoning bylaw amendment at the public planning. And council passed the following, that the comments be addressed and brought forward to general committee. So through you, Mr. Mayor, is that where we are at this stage? Where's Mr. Ramuno? There he is.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, correct. So I've got a recommendation report, and we did attempt to try and address the comments that we did hear from the public at that public meeting in September.
Councillor Abel.
So through you, Mr. Mayor Daw, are we amending anything to those comments in this report here today with regards to uses of that property?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. If I can refer council to there is a chart on page 4 of 11, which identified the uses that were requested, the C4 uses, and those are the uses that we're recommending be approved for the site. We did hear a number of issues at the public meeting from residents, concerns over hours of operation, the type of uses. The one change from the public planning meeting was the applicant had indicated a standalone building in the middle of the parking area for a restaurant with a drive-through. So we've evaluated that, and we are recommending the restaurant use with the drive-through facility. But that would, if council were to approve this, that would still require the applicant to come forward with an actual site plan application to show that development, and it would actually function on site, and that application would need to be considered by council.
Councilor Abel.
Thank you. There were other comments I recall at that planning meeting that were concerned about an additional loading dock at the south end because we were going to allow for the big building to be divided into, say, 3 stores. And the applicant at that time had said that, it would be necessary that they had their own docks. So the comments were that it was awfully close to houses, there was noise, there was lights. Also, there were comments about the driveway at the north end is shared with there's an intersection there, and also the lights as a 3-party agreement. And Mr. Ramuno, and I wanted, through you, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask, have those been addressed, and are they highlighted in this proposal that they have to be addressed, or if it's for sale, wouldn't we want to make the prospective buyer aware of the certain conditions going forward? So it's a bit of a...
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have identified the request for the additional loading spaces. Councillor Abel is correct. The intent of Canadian Tire Corporate was to divide the building into 3 commercial uses to try and attract additional tenants. With respect to the tri-party agreement regarding the lights and the easement for the driveway access through the site to the townhomes in behind, and the connections between the winter site, they are registered on title, and they will remain in effect, notwithstanding any change in zoning.
There are concerns with regard to the state of repair of some of the entrances into the townhomes at the south end. There's a major undulation into the pavement. Of course, I guess these would all be addressed and concerned with any prospective loading dock, et cetera, going through. There was also mentioned that there would be mitigation to noise and hours of operation, screening, garbage, all these sort of ideas, so as not to impact on the residents nearby. So I'm a little concerned if it's going for sale that we're approving something that not all the items have been sort of addressed. So I could ask through you, Mr. Mayor, what can you tell the residents about those concerns?
Mr. Mill?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with respect to some of the on-site issues with respect to pavement, if we do move forward and Canadian Tire does come forward with with the proposed changes, we will enter into an amending site plan agreement to ensure that some of those matters are corrected as part of the redevelopment of the site, and any changes to the exterior of the building. With respect to the hours of operation and noise, we have bylaws in effect to deal with that. With respect to garbage and litter on site, as part of a future site plan agreement, we will be able to identify those garbage collection areas, and that they can be properly screened through that site plan agreement process stage if we move forward.
Hold it. Councilor Abel, we gotta wait for that.
Do I have to wait for the ticker? Yep. Okay, I get it. So those concerns, whether a site plan or an application is brought forward or a new owner comes forward with that site plan, will be more or less on record as having to be addressed at that time? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Councillor. We have Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to comments made a little bit earlier, I'm a little concerned that the property is going for sale, and we're making, sort of almost paving the way for whatever is going to go in its place. I know back at the planning session, sounds good, planning session that we had, I think I actually asked if Canadian Tire was going. I didn't know they were in the business of, keeping real estate and landlords, and there was no thought at that time that they were selling. So to hear that they're selling now, there's obviously a deal, obviously going on, and I have some concerns, especially when the board at Mosaics send us a list of issues that they don't feel are being addressed in this report. I mean, the report is thorough, but what it's saying is, a little bit concerning, in terms of the types of things that go in there with, bars and things of that nature. We already have one like that in town that's causing neighbors right next door all kinds of problems. I don't want to see it happen again. Mosaics is very, very close to this property. I'm just a little worried with a bunch of things that they're bringing up, plus that we're actually doing these zoning changes for an owner that's selling. I don't think it's the right time. I'd like to just say forget it and come back when the new owners purchase the property, and then we'll hear what they want to say. Thanks, that's all I have to
Councillor?
say. Oh, I won't be supporting it.
I'm sorry?
I won't be supporting this tonight.
Okay. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, it certainly is disconcerting to just find out at the beginning of the council to find out that the land is up for sale. Is there not a protocol or policy to disclose that a land is currently up for sale, or at least that much? Because then the motives of the owner changes, and I think that is that's a material bit of information.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. On that note, again, it came to my attention about a week or 10 days ago that they had put the property up for sale. I haven't spoken directly to the representatives from Canadian Tire, but I know that there is a lot of interest in that location for future development. But again, it came to my attention about a week ago that they had put the property for sale, and there's an expression of they're looking for offers on the property.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whether we find out properties for sale before, during the zoning change process, or shortly after, I mean, the owners rarely are going to give council or other stakeholders advance notice of something like that. So I don't certainly hold anyone accountable for us finding out in such a short period of time. Certainly in this case, when Director Ramuno only found out a week or so ago. But if we do know in advance that the owner in this case does have the land up for sale, it would make a lot more sense that that the owner with a long-term vision of the land come forward to make the zoning changes, and not the owner who's going who only has a short-term vision for it, which is to expand on the zoning, to do really what's best only for the owner and not for the interests of homeowners nearby or for the broader community. I think benefits has to be shared by everybody. For these reasons, I can't support the zoning change at this time. I'd rather wait for the new owners to come by and see their strategy and long-term plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson, I'm going to go around one more, and then I think I'm just going to call the vote because there seems to be a we're just sorting out the best way to do this. So I'm going to ask Councillor Thompson, Gartner, and Peary, and then we'll call the vote. So I've got Councillor Gartner. I'm sorry, Councillor Thompson, my apologies.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Follow along the similar lines through you to Mr. Ramuno. So, Mr. Ramuno, if I understand correctly, then if there is a potential purchaser, they in theory could then come after the sale and apply for a change, even for from a commercial use to a residential use as well. So we could see a complete change in use for this property.
Apologize, Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Yeah, it'd be a new application.
Councillor Thompson.
No, I share some of the similar concerns coming into tonight. I had no issue with it, but upon hearing this now, it seems like the zoning change really is to make it more marketable so that they're able to sell it to a wider variety of users. And then we could very well be back debating a new use for the site. And I agree with some of the fellow comments around the table. Then let the purchasers come before us.
Councillor Gartner, Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement. I think it would be unwise for us to give any zoning changes before we know what the new owner is going to want to do with the property. But at the end of the day, I think we really have to keep in mind that we have residents backing on a property, and at the end of the day, there are going to be noise issues with respect to garbage removal and perhaps delivery trucks. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, is there a way that we can put agreements in place with whoever the owner would be, that they're not allowed to pick up garbage at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're not allowed to have their trucks delivering at, it's really a quality of life issue for these residents. So is there anything that we can do as a council to put policies in place, no matter who the owner is, with respect to noise issues?
Mr. Ramuno?
It's something we can try to do and within our site plan agreements, and then it really becomes an enforcement matter. Our current noise bylaw does speak to hours of operation and activities on a given site. It's something that we can certainly address on a case-by-case basis.
Councillor?
Thank you. The answer is not good enough for me, though, because, who do you call at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who comes? And by the time they come, the delivery truck is gone or the garbage truck is gone. Well, we need to find a better way to do this. I don't know what that is, but we have to do it.
Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my first question is to either Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Serio. I was always under the impression that when we undergo a rezoning, it has to do with the property and not the person who's choosing to rezone the property. If you look at the requests that were made, to expand the permitted uses, basically from Canadian Tire, and we're looking to expand them to the uses for the building subsequent, or not subsequent, the building that's the property that's existing to the immediate north of this site that we're talking about. They're just being brought into conformity with one another. So, the inclusion of bake shops, a bank, if somebody wanted to put in a bowling alley, business and professional offices, clinics, drugstores, dry cleaning establishments, libraries, post office, all we're talking about, we're not talking about, allowing for things that are outrageous. We're just talking about expanding the zoning from what is currently on the site to what might potentially be on the site. A lot of the same issues that have existed in the past will continue to exist. Issues around garbage collection, that existed when it was a Canadian Tire. That's not a new issue that's arising based on these changes. So what would be the ramifications of turning this down as we've all sat around the table to say we're turning it down because a property owner is looking to sell and we're not looking at the planning merits for this change. We're looking at the circumstances around the application, but we're not actually looking at the application for itself. So I don't know if that's to Pat or to Marco.
Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Serio? Put your hand up, Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to the point of the requested uses, currently the site is zoned specifically for the Canadian Tire to permit only automotive uses, and the request is to expand it to a general shopping center zone use, and what's being proposed are those type of uses consistent with other type of retail plazas. If council turns it down, the owner always has the option of appealing the decision to the board. I'm not sure what their what their thoughts are, because again, as we've heard, they do have the property up for sale, but that is an option for them to appeal it to the board if council turns it down.
Councillor Perry.
So to follow up, again, if we look at what the rezoning entails, I'm in favor of this type of rezoning for this parcel of property, regardless of if it's this owner or the next owner coming in wants to put these uses on this site. I'm okay with that. I think I think we'd have more of a discussion if somebody buys this property and puts in a townhome complex or condos that are abutting Yonge Street. Definitely there's more work to be done and conversation to be had, but that's not what this is talking about. So if you're in favor of having a commercial site being used as a commercial site, which allows more than just a Canadian Tire on site, because that's what the initial zoning allowed for. Really, it's my understanding that the major things we're allowing for are additional uses is the first, and then the second is allowing us to subdivide the building a little bit more, in addition to allowing perhaps some new types of building right at Yonge Street, which would mirror the other new growth that's it would mirror, I don't want to call it by its name, it would mirror the bank across the way, which is a drive-through. So if we're looking at this from a planning perspective, for planning matters, I'm in favor of making these changes for that site, regardless of who owns or potentially owns the property. So I'll be voting in favor of it.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Dow. Councillor Perry pretty much got to the crux of what I was going to ask staff, but and apologies if this has been answered. I was actually away for the public planning meeting for this item, but through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Muno, does anything stop the future owner, if there is one, from coming to council and getting a rezoning if they wanted to develop the property as residential at a future date, if we move forward with the zoning changes today?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. Again, if it was a new owner wanted to change the development to a residential type development, they would need to submit a zoning amendment application and the appropriate site plan type of application, and we'd have to go through the public planning process again.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I mean, obviously we haven't had any, there won't be any ill effects. What I'm trying to find out is there won't be negative net effects to the town if we move forward with this today, other than whether or not you agree that these uses should be permitted or not. And that's fine for council if they disagree. So I agree with Councillor Perry. I think from my view, they're asking for an expanded amount of uses for their commercial plaza that allows more than just a Canadian Tire. And if a future owner of the property comes forward at a later time and wants to redevelop the property, then we can certainly consider any amendments to the zoning that they bring forward at that time. But as of right now, I don't have any issues with the zoning changes that are proposed, so I'll be voting in favor of it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. Council, before we go around the game, we've got 3 speakers up for the second time. If there's not going to be a sense of moving forward with this, I've conferred with the CAO and with the clerk. We could defer it till the end of June. Mr. Ramuno has indicated there's no time sensitivity in this particular item, and let us, if someone would care to put that on. If not, then we'll just carry on. Just because at this point, my understanding is that Canadian Tire is essentially testing the water. That's all. I'm sorry? Okay, well, we could table it, yep. Madam Clerk? So a motion to table it then? Which is effectively the same thing. It just kills the debate at this point. We shelve it for a while. Motion to table, second. Councillor Gartner. Non-debatable. All in favor? Pardon me? We're conferring. Turn Jeff's mic off. Okay, you want to speak to it, please? Do you feel confident? Just, yeah, we're going to defer it. Yeah, that was my thought. We'll get that part. So we Councillor Tom, excuse me, you don't even look like Councillor Tom. Councillor Maracas and Councillor Gartner, a motion to defer it to the end of June. Just council, to the last council meeting in June. Councillor Maracas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say I'd prefer to defer it to when the new owner comes forward with a new application. That's what I would defer it to.
We have to defer to a specific time.
We have to, okay.
So, I mean, if it comes back and nothing's happened, we can take another stand at that point.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine.
So the motion is to defer it till the last council in June. Comments or questions on the motion to defer? Councillor Perry. Just to defer. There should be. Hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess through you to Mr. Amuno, with regards to the OMB, if this were deferred, until the end of June, there are statutory requirements to deal with items within a certain amount of time. So through you to Mr. Amuno, how does this affect those statutory requirements?
Mr. Amuno, please. Okay, everybody slow down. Mr. Amuno.
Sir, through you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies. I did mention that the applicant could appeal a decision to refuse the application, but Council Perry is correct. If there is a deferral, the application was submitted back in the fall, so the time frame under the Act for zoning for council to make a decision on a zoning bylaw is 4 months. So the applicant is still within their rights to appeal the application based on the lack of a decision from council. Again, I haven't had a discussion with the applicant about the timing for them with respect to the application, but that is their option.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's incumbent upon us to, we have an item in front of us. It's not always wise to defer it. We're here and then elected to make a decision around the table. So I think we need to get things done tonight, Mr. Mayor. And I am going to be voting against a deferral, and I am in favor of this application.
No, wait. There's people speakers. Who's next?
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. It's a free-for-all.
That's what happens when I try and speed it up, right?
I appreciate the perspective that Councillor Perry put forward, but there's a significant amount of information that we've learned for the first time tonight about the property, and it would have been good to have known that in advance, to be able to digest it and give it some thought about how that impacts it or not. I know for myself, when I'm considering zoning bylaw amendments or OP amendments, it's because the property owner needs those amendments because he wants to make use of the property. We're trying to accommodate him to make use of the property. This is a different scenario, and so I'm in favor of the deferral, even for the opportunity for Mr. Ramuno to go back and talk to the applicants who are here in the audience and hearing the concerns around the table. Perhaps some further discussion can be held and brought back to us. Either way, I think that learning that piece of news does significantly change the facts before us. And so I think that a deferral is probably the best thing at this point in time, and I'm in favor of it.
To the deferral, Councilor Moracos, Councilor Humphreys.
I was going to say I would pull back. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say I'll remove the deferral, but I might as well just let it play out and let's see what the vote does. But I agree with Councilor Thompson. As I said, I don't think it makes sense for us with knowing this information. I mean, through you to Mr. Ramuno, I'm just curious. Would making these changes at all increase the value of the property in a sale?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, obviously, the applicant's interest was always to expand the uses because they were so restrictive to the automotive use. I appreciate the concerns I've heard around the table. In light of the the owner's decision to put the property up for sale, I personally don't have an issue if council defers the application, because I would sit down with the owner and their representatives to really understand, if they really want to sell the property, and maybe, it's a moment to pause, and we can always bring it back at a later date.
Councilor? Hold on, wait till your name comes up.
Yep, thank you. And then it disappeared. Thank you. I just don't think it's the right thing for us to do, to be making changes when it's up for sale. I think this is new information that we need to look at, and that's why I'm okay with the deferral. But I'm also okay in just voting on it and voting against it, because I do feel that there's still concerns with the residents that the residents have within the area. There's many concerns, and I think there's quite a few of us around the table that still have those concerns. So, either way, I'm fine voting on it or voting for the deferral. So, but I'll see what everyone else has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not in favor of the deferral tonight. I think we need to vote on it. I'm half in alignment with Councilor Perry. We should make a decision tonight. My main concern is, we're growing our town and thinking out of the box and trying to make this, a beautiful place for people to want to come and live and keep evolving it and making it amazing. With these zoning changes and they're putting it up for sale, for me, it's like, okay, now buyers, it's a little more attractive. We're paving the right way for you now. You can do these things. It'd be really great to have a prospective buyer know what it is, the way it is today, and come up with an amazing idea, amazing plan that would really complement the area, the neighborhood, and hearing our concerns, make sure that those concerns are addressed in their proposal. That, for me, is very concerning. And I'll tell you, we did this once before, and the property was sold right after, even though they assured us they wouldn't do it. So I have a real concern about this. And now, you have no idea, and I won't go into that property, but for me, it'd be great for an applicant to come forward with their idea, what they want to do specifically, and work with us. That's what we normally see. To see a zoning changes to make it attractive for a sale, it's good for Canadian Tire, because they're going to pave the way, and I can put a really cool bar in there and have a dance club. It'll be very noisy at 2, 3 a.m. in the parking lot. I'm thinking realistically, guys, and if we approve it tonight, that's perfect. They have no one has any problems going in and doing that. I'm thinking about the vicinity of the neighborhood. It's been Canadian Tire for years and years and years. We need to be careful what's put there. If there were no neighbors in the backyard, then maybe I'd think differently. But because I know those houses and where they are and what could happen, we're going to hear about it. So to me, I'd like to just vote against it tonight and ask the new owners to come forward with their plan and what they want to do there. And then I'll vote then. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I was one of the first ones to talk, and I asked our director if we approve this, that if it was sold, the purchaser would have to address the concerns that were brought forward at the planning meeting and again tonight, and he said they would be for a secondary site plan. So I don't know why we would defer. I'm not in support of deferring it. I think the information's right there. I really think our role is to try and promote business, try and encourage business, try and attract development. We're trying to take a place that is currently empty at the south end of our town and attract some commercial investment, and we're showing a bit of a role saying, okay, it was only for a hardware store, Canadian Tire, and now we're going to allow it to be divided up maybe into 3 big shops, which is what we see at Winners and other places. We had a good discussion. We did talk with the neighbors, and those things have been addressed with the director. So, you know, if you want to buy property, commercial property here in Aurora and be handcuffed because you have to go to council and let them know what you have planned, and they're not sure, and I think that's the wrong message. I would go along with Councillor Perry and a few others and say, you know what, I would support the item. We didn't have a general committee. I mean, what if he wants to paint it? I mean, we shouldn't be involved in what a property owner has to do apart from the zoning, and then away they go. And we're trying to encourage that. We get assessment and away we go. So I think we're sending a really poor message if we defer this and hum and haw and say, well, he didn't tell us that he was going to sell. Well, why would he? Why does he have to? It's nowhere in our zoning. So I'm just trying to be practical. I want to just sort of be clear in my mind what I think we should be doing, and that's attracting business and doing things, and doing it according to what the recommendation is from our planning department. The concerns have been brought up, so I'm not in favor of deferring, if the only reason is because some feel uneasy because it's going up for sale. I do, through you, Mr. Mayor, recall that in the secondary plan called the Promenade Plan, that in the long run, this is due for intensification. These commercial lots could be residential, and that's a very attractive development proposal to meet our guidelines of our official plan that we registered, and the corridor and the transportation going down there. So, I mean, we want to see that going forward. We don't want to be appearing. I mean, to me, we should be sure of what we're doing. So, I maybe till next week or defer until we understand, some councillors and myself perhaps, what exactly our role is. Should we feel uneasy because someone's putting a property up for sale? I don't think so. I think that's business. But looking down the long run, if I was a developer, I might only do 10-year leases, thinking that in 10 years I'm going to come back and rezone it and close it all down and put in what the Promenade study said, and that's for intensification and 6-story buildings with commercial at a level, and away we go. So that's where I'm thinking. So I don't know what the concern is. I don't have a concern. I'm not in favor of deferral. I'm in favor of moving ahead, and the concerns that were brought forward, the director said, would be addressed with any site application coming forward, because it's on record, and those are our concerns. So any purchaser, anyone bringing forward, will well know that we want those issues, the peace and quiet, as much as possible for those and the neighbors, and some of the upgrades and some of the other comments that we made. So I'm not in favor of the deferral. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Tom Kim Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, I believe what the deferral on the table is till June, and I think that's a bit long. I mean, if we were going to defer till maybe the next council meeting or something, just to get a sense of what the owner, you know, what their mindset was, I might be okay with that. But even having thought about it since we've heard the discussion around the table, I don't think I'm even in favor of that. I mean, when it comes down to is, Councillor Abel touched on it, this is economic growth for the south part of our town on Yonge Street. I mean, we've had a lot of businesses, there's been a little bit of a shift towards Bayview, and I think Yonge Street's really important, especially for commercial uses. And right now this is a little bit of a restrictive zoning for this particular site, and we're allowing, or at least proposed to be allowing, expanded usage so that businesses can operate in there, and it can be a bit more viable for people to operate businesses there. So for me, I think at this point in time, I'm not in favor of the deferral, and I will support the main motion.
Councillor Kim Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Principally, I have no problems with keeping independent the zoning process and the ownership process. However, the zoning process is the one leverage the town has to ensure that the town's interests and the interests of the residents are put first. And really, from a business perspective, when you put the business in the town or the residents in the town first, then the business should ultimately succeed. I know of a couple of properties where the owner purchased properties at their own risk, and it was owned in a manner that in its original zoning state it was useless to them, but they took the risk, purchased the property, and put a strategy and complementary zoning plan forward, and that's what I would like to see here. I'm indifferent as to whether we defer it or we vote for it now. If we vote for it now, I will vote against. Deferring it will allow us more time to think things through and perhaps give the applicant an opportunity to provide more information if necessary. So I'm for the deferral, but if we're for putting a vote now, then I will vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am in favor of the deferral just because it gives us a little more time to understand what's going on with the property. And I think it's important as well, as Councillor Kim has said, in a way that we send a message to the developers that it is important for us, our residents who are already in place are important for us, and we need to be careful what we allow to go in place there. And of course, we all want economic development in the downtown core. It's a fantastic property, and I don't think, and I hope it won't defer anyone from buying the property just because council wants a little more time and a little more information.
Thank you. My goal was to maybe speed the discussion up. That didn't work so well.
No.
So, Councilor Maracas, with your indulgence, could I just call the vote on the deferral, and then we'll just go back to the main motion if that's the case. All in favor of the deferral, please. And we still haven't got the recorded vote, so if I could just ask everybody to put their hands up high. Contrary. The deferral carries 5-4. Thank you. May I suggest we bring item R7 forward, which is the proposed amendment to the sign bylaw. Councillor Kim, would you move that forward, please, for us? Just put your hand up. And Councillor Tom, second. All in favor of moving the item, just to move the item forward? Contrary? That's carried. Councillor Kim, would you care to put the item on the floor for me, based on your motion? Just move in. We've got a mover in a second, and Councillor Perry seconding, and then speakers, press your button. Anybody want to speak to the item? Councillor Kim?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Khan for leading the Chamber of Commerce and just collaborating with them in terms of the spirit of this bylaw amendment. It was great work. It was a great experience working with them and getting to speak with them. And in the workshop late last year, I was able to hear a lot of open and frank discussion for and against, but largely most of the comments were very favorable to the amendments. I know since then as well, I've received a few emails, and they were very constructive, but a majority was also in favor of it as well. And I just wanted to point out that a lot of I think a lot of the resistance of the handful that did come out to or emailed some form of resistance to this was that it represented a lack of inclusivity, that as hosts we needed to really make new businesses and residents welcome. And I think quite the opposite. I think what this amendment does is bring inclusivity and make people welcome because, we share a common bond, and that's language. I know inclusivity is the aim, and there have been, some few cries of political incorrectness, which really amounts in my interpretation as reverse discrimination. And inclusivity means, it's a common language that's understandable by a majority of residents and of the town and of the region. And I think the official response from the comments from the chamber really highlights all the positives. And when you have pretty well 99% of the business owners in Aurora in favor of the amendment, there's really nothing more to say. I have some additional comments, but I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. And so thank everyone in advance for their comments, and thank the Aurora Chamber of Commerce again for partnering with us.
Other speakers, press your button, please. Well, if there's no other speakers, I'll call the vote. Unless you wish to speak again, Councillor Kim. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. And R2, which is the fire station funding project. Someone put that on the floor for us, please. Councillor Tom, thank you. Second. Councillor Humphreys, thank you very much. Any comments or questions on? This is the fire station funding. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And I just have a small question. With respect to page 4 of the report, it talks about the DCs that will have to recoup the cost for this, and it talks about the 10-year outlook because we need to, it amounts to approximately 6,000 units. That'll take approximately 10 years. So I just want to have perhaps Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Elliott talk about, just expand on that for the residents a little bit on what the outlook actually is for development, because I know a lot of people would think that we're almost built out or whatever. So you can enlighten us.
Mr. Elliott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We wanted to look at this for this project and also my upcoming report on the Joint Operations Center with respect to the future of DCs and the future of growth. As part of our 2018 budget development program, we have a very detailed undertaking underway right now to look at the planning horizon over the next 10 years with respect to number of units, number of square footage of non-res, and so on. Some of the early numbers from that work was given to me by Director Ramuno late last week. Based on those numbers and sort of indexing and forecasting DC rates applicable, I see that this project would be, the balance in the reserve would come back to zero in 12 to 13 years. 12.8 years is my number. So it's not 30 years, it's not 15, it's about 12 or 13. And that's based on clearly some tailing off of development in the short term and then moving into a long-term horizon. It's important for everybody. Yes, we have this build-out goal of 70-some-odd thousand people as our population. That's this planning horizon. In another 10 years, I'm certain that number is going to be different. Toronto was much bigger than they thought it would have been back in 1967. So in reality, I don't see that development ever stops in a municipality.
Thank you. Do I need a mic? Oh, here we go. I'm on again. Thank you, Mr. Elliott, and I appreciate that. And I would agree. I mean, I know that the population targets that we are given are also often talked about as being minimums as well. So I do appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I have grave concerns with the financial implications sections, which I did discuss with Mr. Nadarozny. But so, Mr. Elliott, if you just would, I did get the population figures from Mr. Muno. To the year 2026, we're anticipating about 70,000 people. And we're now sitting at 60,000. So we have somewhere around 10,000 people that are moving into Aurora. And we figure, I think it's now, Mr. Muno can correct me, 3 people per unit. That's about the calculation we make. So that gives us about 3,000 units. The math doesn't work out to me. We need 6,000 units in the next 10 years, and our population is projected to give us about 3,000. And the DCs are based on detached and semi-detached homes. And most of our expansion will be in the 2Cs. And in the 2Cs, there are row houses, townhouses, condominiums. So their DC calculation is going to be less. So that 10,000 population figure is going to be made up not only of detached and semi-detached, but of row houses, townhouses, and condominiums. And they would bring in, again, a lesser DC charge. So could you tell me why you've chosen just the singles and the semis, and speak to that approximately 3,000 households coming in the next 10 years?
Mr. Elliott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The growth units, growth numbers that I was provided by Mr. Ramuno was not population. It was actual forecasted units of singles, towns, and large apartments. And for example, he says 1,350 units of single homes would be constructed in the 17 to 21 5-year planning horizon, and a further 600 in the following 5 years. So his numbers are 1,950 single-family detached homes will be built in the next 10 years. So I've got numbers for singles, towns, large apartments. I also have an estimated 1,300,000 square feet of non-residential development in the first 5 years, and 1.5 million square feet in the second 5-year horizon. That non-res component contributes nearly over $900,000 of DC revenue alone, just the non-res stuff, and then the residentials. I have a detailed calculation I'd be happy to go through with you. I believe that the numbers that I've provided and the estimates, it's early in our planning horizon at this point in time, but we are developing these long-range planning. It's important to note, too, that this, call it financing period for the fire hall, is less than the financing period that we used for the overbuild at the SARC, which was a 20-year debenture. And so tax development charges today are still paying for the SARC. Thank you.
You should be on.
I'm on? Hi. Well, that's one of my problems is that I think we've got a pretty good handle on what's going to happen in the next 10 years, because we know the 2Cs are going to build out, and we know that we're going to have infill and intensification. So I think we have a really good handle in the next 10 years. And part of my issue with the financial implications section is that the numbers were only given for the singles and the semis. not for the condos or the rows, and there's no component for the DCs on the ICI component, the industrial, commercial, institutional. And so maybe it all does work out, but I can't tell that from this report. From this report, it seems to me that we're only going to be raising half the money in the next 10 years. I don't know, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Nadarozny, perhaps you have something to add about this. We did discuss these concerns.
Mr. Nadarozny?
To you, Mr. Mayor,
Oh, I think I'm on. Well, even though my name isn't Doug, what I would like to see is a more detailed explanation of where this money is going to come from. How many singles are we expecting? How many semis? How many rows?
Doug, your microphone's on now. Okay, hold on, Councillor.
Reboot it.
I'm going to make a suggestion. We hold that. We take a quick break, reboot the system, and come back.
They're having microphone problems.
Hold that thought, Councillor. Where's our techie guy? Not you, the other guy. The guy that we. Yeah, tell him to reboot. Can I have a motion? Recess, please. It's our health break. Yeah. Do we not need a motion to? Piri, Maracus, all in favor? Contrary? Carried.
They're flaky.
Just lost his mind. Yes. He's got to stand up anyways. Okay, if I could have everyone retake their seats, please. Where's Councillor Abel?
He was here, he just left.
Okay, can I? Okay, well, I'm going to be going back to Councillor Gartner. So could I please have a motion to resume? Councillor Tom, Councillor Humphreys, all in favor? Contrary? Carried. Councillor Gartner, back to you. You were the floor was yours when we were so rudely interrupted by the technology.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If council would permit, I would like to put forward option 1 on page 5 of the report. Option 1 would approve the design phase funding and would bring a separate report on the funding of the rest of the project back to council in the next cycle or as soon as the director can manage that.
Mr. Elliott, what kind of timing are you looking at on that, and is there any negative implications?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chair. There are no direct project implications at this point in time. We're still in the stages of developing the specifications for design tender. That will go out shortly. I think the councillor's motion would address that by giving us the funding so that we can go to design. I expect that in the next cycle, which is now the end of March, I'll be able to come back with a detailed report, an accounting of how I came up with my 12.8 years.
Is council in agreement with that approach? All right, then we have the motion is on the floor, so if I could ask for a vote on that, I'm presuming it's going to be defeated, and then I'll ask for a vote for Councillor Gartner's option. All in favor of the motion on the floor, then, please. All in favor of the motion on the floor, contrary? Okay, the motion on the floor fails. Councillor Gartner. Thank
you, Mr. Mayor. And Somebody on that side of the table suggested this, so perhaps they could either put it forward or second it. And I don't remember if it was Councillor Tom or Councillor Humphreys. So, Councillor Humphreys, could you second my motion, which is option 1?
So that would be to receive, and then option 1, which is council approve only the design phase funding rather than the full project funding in principle, thereby requiring another separate funding report for Aurora's share of the construction of the project. Everyone understand that? We all okay with that? And according to Mr. Elliott, there's no short-term time implications. So if I can call the vote on that, then please, all in favor. Contrary? That is carried. Thank you. R3, the approval of capital project number 24006, replacement of bylaw services vehicle number 403. If someone could put that on the floor, please. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Second. Councillor Tom. Any speakers to this, please? This was approved during the budget. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Dodd. Just a quick comment. In the budget process where this was first presented, we typically get a vehicle information sheet that talks about it in more detailed. I just think in future, when these reports come forward, can we just attach that vehicle information report as part of the overall report rather than, having to go back to the budget binders?
Will do. Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor then? Opposed? That is carried. R4, purchase order for increase for road salt. Someone put that on the floor, please. Councillor Kim, thank you. Second. Councillor Perry. Any speakers to this? Seeing none, may I please have vote? All in favor? I'm sorry, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Dodd. I guess I would have to look at Mr. Nadarozny to represent IES this evening. It wasn't that long ago we had a report talking about thaw rocks and all of the good thing it does for the equipment, for the environment, getting away from salt. And now I see before us a report that's kind of not contrary, but it's a little bit of a shift. And I'd like a little bit more of an explanation than just there were some challenges with it gumming up the machinery.
Can you answer that, sir?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'll do my best. My understanding is that under certain temperature and humidity conditions, the thaw rocks is jamming up in the systems, and so they're still experimenting with the ideal conditions, but the raw salt doesn't encounter the same problem, so they're using both.
Councillor? If I may. And surely we can't be the only municipality experimenting with this product. Would we have not have learned it prior to embarking on this sort of pilot program?
Mr. Nadarozny?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know the specifics, so I'd have to get back to you on that, but I do know that there's different types of spreaders and different types of feeders for those spreaders, and so there is a number of variables, so I'm assuming that that's what we're working through is the different variables, as well as the elemental conditions in terms of humidity and temperature.
Councillor? Councillor Thompson? Okay. Councillor Maracas, Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we had that initial report, we were told how great this product would be and how useful it would be and how much money we would save because we wouldn't need to spend the money on the liquid brine to treat the salt. Also, our equipment wouldn't rust as easily, so the lifespan of our vehicles would last longer. Also, we would minimize the amount of salt we would use. We're eliminating the use of sand. And so, we made those decisions based on that report and how great this product is. And, and now we're seeing this and how it's not that great. So I'm just a little bit, discouraged of maybe we didn't do or maybe the due diligence wasn't done when the initial report came before us. So I guess, I don't know, I guess it would have been great to know all the ins and outs about this product before we actually decided to make the leap to using it.
Councillor Humphreys.
Through Mr. Mayor, I won't repeat what was just said, but that's what was my comments. And, well, I just hope that whatever we do moving forward, that is going to be a good plan for sustaining service levels and so on. I'm just concerned to see this happen because I was really excited about just the whole environmentally friendly use of this type of product, and to hear that it clogs up our equipment is just, anyway, it's disappointing. But out of our control as to knowing this would happen, I guess. I think moving forward, I know that there's going to be a lot of focus on service level reviews, and maybe this is something we could take a wider look at and see if there's other products out there. We have to do now, I guess, to address the issue, and it's a lot of money. But I think moving forward for service levels, I'm looking forward to the overall information we're going to receive once the financial team gets. I'm talking about the other motion from last meeting about kind of looking at the snow removals and the service levels in general. I know staff's going to work really hard to present some really good solutions, and anyways, this is just one of them. I hope they can get cleared up. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson again.
Thank you, Mayor Doff. There's nobody else for the first time. I just, perhaps Mr. Nadarozny could just get back to the members of council, but I think Councillor Marcus brings up a good point. One of the initial pieces with the alternative to de-icing the roads and so forth was that, this product overall, even though it's more expensive, we would use less and save on the liquid brine. And so there was some cost savings as a net result of it. Now with this new report, I'd like to know at the end of the day whether there is that same net savings that was indicated in the initial report, or now we're looking at an increase. And perhaps you could just get back to us through email.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Not seeing any. May I call the vote, please? All in favor?
I had my name up, Mr. Mayor.
I apologize, I didn't see.
That's all right. It
Councillor
hasn't
Hall.
changed from before, so my name's there. So I just I wanted to add to the value of the how we did put sand on there, and then we had to clean up the sand. So we're not doing that. There's a lot of talk environmentally about the application of salt, and we've had thorough discussion and on that. And basically, the salt, as explained to me by the conservation, was that in heavily salted roads like the 401, etc., it contributes to environmental concerns. On little travel roads in Aurora, not so much. The waterways are pristine. We're the headwaters of the Holland River and down into Lake Simcoe, and we're doing our best to mitigate environmental concerns, service safe roads, and then also our financial obligation to clean up afterwards. So using a mix because of the equipment is part of the learning curve. And I'd be interested in knowing sort of a cost benefit once we've had a year or two to compare what we were doing before, how we're meeting the safety of our roads, and what the cost of using this application is. Give it a like until the end of the year. So if I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, have Mr. Nadarozny take a note of that, perhaps. And I think it was echoing much the same as what Councillor Humphreys was saying. And as well, the other concerns with our servicing at winter. But the application of salt is one. Anytime we see an increase in a budget, it's always a concern at this table. But then there are savings, and there are environmental concerns. But I'm glad to see that they identified problems with our equipment, and then find by mixing it, it was a way of resolving that. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to pull up the original report. I just can't seem to find it, but I was reading it the other day, and I believe that the savings that was presented to us through the elimination of the sand, the elimination of sweeping of the streets and everything in combination, I believe was a total of $141,000 roughly, but it was under $200,000. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, if we're spending $200,000 more now, then we really aren't saving anything. So, and the fact that, there is concerns with having more salt on the roads, but we in essence made that change because we thought there was going to be savings. The Thaw Rocks is actually a little bit more environmentally friendly compared to regular salt, and so that's why we made that change. But I mean, I think that maybe if we get that report and the numbers show what I assume that they're showing, I think that we would probably be better off for our community if we went back to using that sand, because if we're paying $200,000 now and all we were saving is 140 something, we're spending more money than we were before.
I'm going to go to Mr. Nadarosny, please. Sir.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, and no doubt there's more information that needs to be provided here, but there's two things at play here. One is pure volume being used more than forecast, and the other is an extension of the purchase order, which is just to the extra 2 years. So that's the $200,000. So I'm still need to come back on the actual cost benefit of mixing 50-50 and where the difference is, but I just want to point out it isn't a $200,000 extra expense. That's combining the two new purchase orders to continue on for a longer period of time. So that's budgeted expense. That's not an out-of-budget expense.
Councilor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, so I mean, that's why I'm looking forward to that report and getting some clarified numbers on this, so we can actually make a proper decision, one that makes sense for our community. So, thank you.
Calling the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item R5, application zoning bylaw, Worthman and I'm not even going to try that one. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Is there a second, please? Councillor Gartner, thank you very much. Comments or questions? Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if there's any indication of whether or not the property owners will be selling these parcels once they've been subdivided. Do we have any information on that?
Mr. Ramuno, could you help us, please?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Once the zoning goes through, they will need to provide submit a consent application to actually divide the two existing units, and I'm pretty sure that they will be offering those for sale, those two units.
Councillor Perry.
Just to follow up, I want to make sure everyone was aware of that fact before we voted on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any other comments? Councillor Abel.
Would we then defer this till June?
Only if you put a motion on the floor.
I'm just following up.
Call the vote, please. All in favor?
No. Yeah, I was up there.
Okay.
You have to start watching your monitor, Mr. Mayor.
Well, no, Sam's too fast for me. That's the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-up question to Mr. Ramuno. Are they currently for sale?
Oh, come on.
What? It's a yes or no. Are they currently for sale?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of them being for sale. I haven't seen anything, so.
Calling the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move to R8, next step for the library report. Someone move that, please. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Kim, speakers, please. Councillor Abel.
Mayor, through you, this was not on our general committee agenda. This item was. So normally we bring an item to give notice to the public. Is there a reason why we're bringing this forward in this manner rather than through general committee?
Mr. Nadarosny.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The original intent was to provide an information report only to council on the next steps for the cultural precinct. As time went on and as we had the opportunity to meet with FOTAN, we decided that there was perhaps an operational decision that council could make with respect to engaging FOTAN to do the first 3 steps as identified in this report. So we supplemented what was just to be an information report. And rather than, as council may remember, our new procedure bylaw requires an information report would have just gone on the web, and we would have required a councillor to move it to the agenda. And so, given the high profile of this and the fact that there was a decision point, rather than making an information report, we added the piece about FOTAN's proposed work, and which makes it a decision for council. So on that basis, we put it on the agenda as opposed to just posting it on the web.
Thank you. Councillor?
Would we not tender such an important piece of what we're doing going forward?
Mr. Nader-Rosny?
Through you, Mr. Chair, council will remember that FOTAN stopped the work that they were already doing through a competitive process before they actually finished. And so when direction was given by council to move forward with the demolition and to suggest a process to move forward with an ultimate design, we looked at the unfinished work of that FOTAN had already been engaged for, and there was a possibility of some overlap with a new process and the work that they had already been basically contracted to do. So we gave them the opportunity to consider the next steps and to fulfill the work within their existing contract only, and that's why this makes it clear that within their existing contract they would only complete the first 3 steps, and if council was pleased with that work and wanted to extend their work, there would be a decision later for council to decide whether or not to engage them to do the following 3 steps. So this is merely an opportunity to use them for the work that they already started and that was stopped prematurely.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Nader-Rosny. So am I correct in saying that FOTAN basically stopped their services to us while we did the reboot? So they would have stopped in January of 2016. And now it's February and we're going to re-engage them to finish off some money that's left over. How much is left? Can we give a dollar figure? Is there any way of knowing that?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Mayor, there's $25,396.58 left in the purchase order.
Hold on. Councillor Abel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had extended I think we extended extra money in November or December of 2015. Was it December? We had a report coming back asking for another $30,000 for the next phase, I think it was. So this is why I think it's fair that everyone has a little time to get through this. Mr. Nader-Rosny, if it's not a rush thing, I mean, we could refer this to our next cycle so that we might have a better chance to prepare and go through it. However, I would perhaps put a notice to refer, a motion to refer into the next cycle, Mr. Mayor, till we can get some of these facts and a little something put together.
Defer.
Defer for one cycle.
Yes. Is there a second for Councillor Abel's motion to defer? Councillor Gardner. Speakers to the motion to defer, please. So we'll clear that queue. And this is on the motion to defer, please. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the reason I say we should defer is because I do recall when we did put an RFP out for the cultural precinct, we had 46 people pick up, and only one went ahead with it, and that was FOTAN. And there is a great interest and a lot of talent out there. I'm wondering, wouldn't we best be going forward to try and engage the best to get the best? And why would we use FOTAN? You know, maybe we could use that money for something else with FOTAN, but I think moving forward with the design concept of the library square would probably, I think we want to put our sights very big on the horizon what it is. and we know there's a great deal of interest out there. So my thought is that perhaps we could take a bit of time just before we go ahead and ask FOTEN to bring 2 conceptual plans forward when we really want to see the potential of what the site offers from maybe engaging others in the industry, the planning industry and the design industry, so that we might have the very best options available for our long-term commitment at the Library Square, which is an important piece of what we've got moving forward in the revitalization plans. So I'm just asking for the opportunity to explore some of those ideas, and so that maybe staff can come back and explain why we're going this way and not considering other options. So I'm asking for a deferral.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Perhaps through you to the clerk, can you give me an indication when this report was made available to members of council?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this report was made available last Friday when we published the council agenda.
Thank you. So in that time, it's a 5-page report. Members of council have had a chance to read it. It's not anything new. It's a continuation of multiple reports which are listed here within the agenda itself. I mean, as we've heard throughout the night, we're here to make decisions. They've argued it on other cases. It's simply a next step report, a continuation of the process that we've been ongoing for a fair bit of time now. It's looking to complete the work that FOTEN was engaged with in the beginning. Yes, I completely understand that a year ago there were concerns and issues, and some asked to stop the process. But now it seems that every time there comes a report, somebody's asking for a delay. It's almost like it's trying to be mothballed. And I think that we need to keep going forward on the path. Mr. Nadarozny has gotten us to this point, and I think that we should take the next step and give FOTEN the chance to come back and bring forward some of those ideas that we've been discussing and looking forward to see. I'm not in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I'm not in favor of the deferral either, but I guess for a different reason. I agree that we want to move on this, and I don't want to delay this process any further. However, I am not comfortable with moving forward with FOTEN at this time. So if I'm speaking to the deferral at this point in time, I'm not in favor of the deferral. I think we do need to make a decision, and I can speak to my issues with FOTEN when we get back to the main motion.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
I guess I'll just stick to the deferral and say I'm not in favor of the deferral, and I'll speak to it when we get back to the main motion.
Okay, all right. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I want to know, and I don't know if it can be answered at the moment, is whether or not we're obligated to stay with FOTEN according to the contract. I wasn't really going to ask that, but I just have. So either Mr. Nadarozny or our lawyer or somebody.
I'm not sure who to direct that to. Okay, Mr. Nadarozny is going to take that.
To you, Mr. Mayor, it's hard to say at this stage, depending on what exactly council wants to do, if they don't want to follow these steps. If the work if the next step is work that aligns with the contracted work that FOTEN was engaged to do, then there could be a conflict, let's call it that. We haven't had those discussions. I don't know what their position would be on that matter, but they could perhaps argue that they want a competitive process, including a body of work. We stopped the work and then we retendered that same work. So at the very least, we'd have to be careful to not get ourselves in that situation.
Councillor?
Thank you. That's primarily why I was asking for a referral, because we don't have any information like that in this report. It seems to me that Phase 3 was contingent upon approval of Phase 2, and we never approved the Phase 2 concept designs. So to me, I really don't know the answer. I don't want to be in a difficult situation legally, but on the other hand, I would like to have a consultant who absolutely specializes in revitalization of downtown cores. And from the work that have seen to date, I don't believe that's FOTEN. So I thought a deferral would just give staff time to get us some extra information to know whether we are obligated to go forward with this particular planner.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mayor Dodd. I just wanted to add, I appreciate Councillor Tom's perspective on this matter, and I think he's right. I mean, we don't need a deferral in this case. It's a matter of making decisions. If you don't feel that FOTEN is the company that can get us to the finish line, then by all means, vote against the motion tonight, and if that's council's will, then we'll figure out what the next steps are. I don't think the deferral is going to make anybody change their mind. I think you either believe in their ability to help us find a solution for Library Square, or perhaps you've lost faith or think that there's somebody else out there that's better than them to help us get there. But I think either way, the deferral is not the best choice. Let's make a decision.
Councillor Marcus. Okay. Councillor Marcus took his name off. Councillor Abel, and you have to hit the button there, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of times in a report we get an alternate recommendation, and that's what I didn't see here, so it's not applicable. The reboot, the 4 milestones speaks guiding principles for the cultural precinct, and then guiding principles, the approval for repurposing, and then the endorsement of conceptual plans for the cultural precinct and repurposing. And then that all just folded on December 5th to no longer, now we're developing a library square. So there's that sort of miss right there. And I have no problem because as you know, we were going to go forward with the library square in 2013 and demolish and come up with a plan back in 2013 and again in 2015. And we find ourselves right back in 2017 with that. And the idea to bring civic pride to our downtown, our cultural precinct now, right in the center of it, is the whole goal. The work of FOTEN, I didn't even know we still had them. I mean, this is news. It's really not borne out in the report that they're still on contract with $28,000. I mean, if that was in the executive summary in the background, I would probably have a better understanding. So it's good that we're having this sort of thing. I really, based on what I've seen with FOTEN, I really think we should bring it out into the broader public to some experts and some great designers that are out there. I mean, the world's our oyster. We've seen what FOTEN has brought. They were asked to deal with the cultural precinct. They did some great work in the town park on how to move around the ball diamond and the band shell and all that stuff, and how to develop apartments. And that's what they were asked to do. And they were asked to do it very quickly, and they did. So I didn't know that we had something left on the ticket. I would want to go forward with the library square. We are long due for it. And I'm all for moving forward with the library square. And in fact, I'd like us all, the community and everyone, to be engaged going forward, because it should be quite a celebration and a great experience to put something like this together. We have some fabulous ideas and concepts going forward. And that's where I thought we were sort of going. If we just want to wrap up and receive what we have here, I'm all for that. If my deferral doesn't carry, then we'll deal with it as well. I was sort of looking for some sort of next steps going forward with the library square, and that is tendering, design, bringing concepts and ideas together based on the information that we've accumulated over the last 18 years. So I just thought we were ready for that stage, and to ask FOTAN to finish off their work with 2 conceptual plans on a shoestring budget, what's left, I don't think it's fair to FOTAN either. I don't think it's fair to us. Perhaps it's just best that we will work on the deferral, and then maybe I'll just ask that we do the 2 items separately in a vote. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, you said there's about $25,000 left in the contract. So how much did we agree to for the Phase 3 part of the contract?
Apologies, Mr. Downey.
To you, Mr. Mayor. On December 1st, 2015, we presented a report, PR 15040, and the purchase order for FOTAN was increased by $21,185 to move forward with Phase 3.
Councillor?
Thank you. So that $21,000 was to be put aside for Phase 3, so that means we still have some money left over from the Phase 2 budget?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Councillor Gardner.
So I don't know how to ask it any other way, so I'll just try it again. I'm sorry if I put anybody on the spot. Are we obligated by contract to follow through with FOTAN?
I'm not sure who to direct that to. Mr. Serio? Are you comfortable enough with the situation?
No, unfortunately, I'm not. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would have to review the contract to see what it says.
Hold on. Councillor Gardner.
Should that be the way the vote goes? Also, are we obligated to pay them any amount of money? No matter what the contract says, are we obligated to pay them a certain amount of money if we don't follow through, if we don't continue to use them? That's why I'm asking for the referral. I don't think we have enough money, enough information in the report. Sorry.
Councillor Rackus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've heard lots of things about deferring it so we can get community engagement, looking at involving the community, getting concept and designs from them. Our world is our oyster. Isn't that what we already done? Did we not engage the community? Did we not engage our community partners? Did we not have them come out? Did we not have public consultations? We slowed down this whole process to do that. That was, some of the councillors at this table asked for that, and we slowed down the process to do it. And now that we've done it, and we're trying to move forward, we're hearing double speak. We're hearing, let's slow down, but I want to move forward. We're going too fast, but we're not going fast enough. I think everyone needs to get it through their head that we need to make a decision on this and move forward, which we have. We've decided we're going to demolish these 2 buildings and to defer it, and then say that, well, I want to defer it because we need to take time, but I'm okay moving forward. Geez, make up your mind, right? Make a decision. And it's, I'll get to the parts about FOTAN. I guess through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Natarajan. To follow up on Councillor Gardner's question, would FOTAN receive that money regardless of whether they continued or not?
Mr. Natarajan.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know the details enough of the contract to be able to answer that question. So if we would have to go back, look through the contract. My earlier answer was with respect to a more general purchasing approach, which would say that if I engage someone to do work parts A, B, C, and D, and they got to part C and we stopped, and then we retendered D and E, that company might have a claim to saying that they legitimately won Section D. So there's a lot of things that aren't defined here. This was an opportunity to engage FOTEN to finish the work that they were engaged to do and to close that off perhaps, or to extend it if there was confidence in council, by council in their work. If the council wants to pause at this point, we would bring back a full analysis of that contract and let you know what the risks are and so on of canceling it outright or extending it or all of those things. But we haven't gone into that level of detail. As I mentioned, this just happened to be timely that we just finished a meeting with FOTEN and brought them, up to date with where council had been with its December decision. And so this was just an opportunity to take a little baby step further than just an information report. But if it's advancing it too quickly, by all means, we'll bring back a more detailed review of the work that FOTEN did and the contract that they have with us.
Councilor Marcus?
Thank you for that. I'm like I said before, I'm against the deferral. I think we're by doing a deferral, we'll just be spinning around in circles, and I believe that some want to slow down this process, but yet are speaking to the fact that they want to move ahead. And that's all I have to say for now, because everything else I have to say is about FOTEN, and I'll deal with that at the main motion.
Councilor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. So speaking again to the deferral, I don't want to delay the process, and I was going to save my comments about FOTEN for later, but I just think this is a very bizarre scenario. So let's assume that the deferral fails, and just as a hypothetical, we vote against the recommendation on that's before us, on the main motion. Will there have to be another staff report that indicates the implications of that? I mean, if we don't move forward with FOTEN, there's no indications in this report as to what the consequences of that are. I mean, I'm not in favor of moving forward with FOTEN at this point for this part of the process. I'd like to move forward. I just don't think it's with them that I'd like to do that with. So from my perspective, I just don't know what the implications are. It's not really included in here. So if we vote against this report, what happens? I mean, I'd be in favor of the deferral if we don't know what will happen and there's some risk or some uncertainty there. But I'd just like to have an answer. And so I don't know who can answer that.
Mr. Niederosny.
Through Mr. Mayor, perhaps it would help if council considered steps 1 to 6, without thinking about who's doing the work. So if council is in favor of steps 1 to 6, then perhaps the motion could be that you're generally in favor of that process and that you want to go back and revisit who does that work and request whatever information you want of us to advance who actually carries out the work. If, on the other hand, you are not liking steps 1 to 6 and you think it calls for a different approach, then I think we're into brand new territory, which is quite legitimately be a whole new process. So perhaps if you could separate the FOTEN decision from the steps 1 to 6 and maybe craft some direction to staff based on those two independent decisions as opposed to the lump, the way we've presented it.
Councilor Tom?
If that's the way that we're going to proceed on this, if that's an option, then I don't think we need to defer it. I'm happy to look at the 6 steps as I've reviewed them again. I'm okay with the 6 steps. I'm not okay with at FOTEN at this point in time. So, if we can move in that direction, then I will vote against the deferral.
Councilor Humphreys, this will be your first time, correct?
Yes.
On the deferral.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not in favor of the deferral. I think it's been said, we've weighed this around for a very, very long time. The public consultations have been done. I'm not going to talk about FOTEN at the moment, but I think the right work has been done, the right concepts have been presented, and steps 1 to 6, as Seo mentioned, are fine with me, so I'd like to just move forward.
I will go to, I'm going to go to Councillor Kim. He hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not for the deferral. If we do this separately, I'm fine with the 6 steps that are presented here. You know, I would hope that, and I would ask that staff would come back at the next cycle, the next council, with an update on FOTAN. And I think what's more alarming for me is that no one around the table knows the contents of the contract with FOTAN. Even if, you know, staff members who drew up the contract maybe a year and a half ago are no longer here, there should have been someone to carry the torch. And I don't want, and I'm not going to, you know, point fingers or anything like that, but I just am disappointed that no one knows the contents, can't answer these questions, because there should be I think in all our process, whether it's an architectural designer, planner, or construction, that there has to be performance clauses, and I would think that there'd be a similar template where there would be a performance clause somewhere in the middle of the process. That said, again, I'm not in favor of delaying, and you know, by the next cycle, if we could have the contents of that contract, and if it is deemed that we cannot back away from this stage 3, let's make them work for it, and I would like to have them come out with their best performance and their best design. You know, let's give them a chance to redeem themselves if it's already paid for.
Before I go to Councillor Abel for the third time.
Second time.
Third.
I introduced the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know. Third time in the deferral. You've spoken twice. I keep count.
But I introduced the motion. That doesn't count as a time.
Yeah, it does, actually.
Not under
Because you spoke.
procedure. We checked it on procedure. We asked for that, Mr. Mayor. Be
Microphone.
clarified.
I'm going to take an opportunity to speak, because the phrase that's coming to my mind is, we're not celebrating Valentine's Day, we're celebrating Groundhog Day. We're going around and around and around in circles. I am not particularly in favor of the deferral, because I don't think it's going to do what we want to do, but I'm less in favor of defeating the motion, which is where I think that might go. So I'm, quite frankly, I don't know what to do at this point, but I am concerned that there seems to be some information that we are missing, and so I'm going to, I'll wait for a couple of more speakers. I'm not particularly keen on the deferral, and if I do support a deferral, it would be one cycle, just so we can get some additional information back. But we have to make a decision, folks. We've been sitting on this for 17 years. So we're not rushing into anything. Absolutely nothing. Councillor Humphreys, pardon me? Yeah, Councillor Humphreys, second time.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll keep it very brief. I have concerns about our lack of, I don't know how to say this, and again, I don't want to offend anyone, but this is the one time we need to be a team. Probably more than ever. We need to have faith in the process that's taken us almost 2.5 years in this term, 4 years before that, and years before that. Deferring it is not going to change a single thing. We've come so far, and I'm really worried that this is going to stop, and it's a serious problem if that happens. Even if we defer it and it comes back and we're still not happy, and more consultation and more this and more that, FOTAN has a job to do. They have $20,000 left. They've got to finish what they started. And at that point, we can make a decision after steps 1 to 3 are done, what we want to do from 4 to 6. Because the $20,000 is included for those first 3 steps. For me, deferring is, personally, I'm going to watch how I say this, but I just feel that we need to just plow forward, guys. And when those visions come through and you're not thrilled with them, let's comment on how we can make them your vision. And around the table, we've got to come up with something that we're going to all be proud of. And I think we can do that. But deferring it because we want other things to happen at this point is, I think, a very serious mistake. And I'll tell you, our residents in the area and our business people looking at us tonight are going to watch very carefully to see how serious we are in pushing this vision forward that we all say we believe in, yet every corner how do we stop it from happening? Because we're not happy with this, and this. So I really do hope we just push it forward. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I went on a little bit longer, but I really do hope we can just come together and push forward. And when that final design happens, let's be at least aligned to it and happy about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I've got Councillor Abel for a third time before I go to him to finish off the debate on the deferral. Any other speakers? Councillor Abel.
I'm going to speak to the main motion.
Yeah, I got it. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I asked for a deferral for one cycle was because it didn't go to general committee, and we can see obviously from the conversation that there's legal implications, contract. There are things that if we were at a general committee, we could have brought up then, and they would have been brought for us before council. That was the only reason I asked for a one cycle deferral. It was taken the wrong way, and I'm hearing it. So. Patience is a virtue. I could withdraw it. I have a sense the concerns were brought up. Typically, a report would allow a general committee to have that information brought forward. Our lawyer, our solicitor wasn't prepared. We could have had those answers on the contract. Anyways, I'll withdraw the deferral if it's okay with the seconder, and then we can address the main motion.
Can we withdraw? The seconders, Councillor Gardner, you okay with withdrawing the deferral? Okie dokie. Councillor. Councillor.
We are allowed to criticize each other around the table. Councillor Abel just squarely put all of this misfortune on one staff member, saying that they weren't prepared. I don't think that was fair. I don't think that was fair to be said out in public against that staff member. So I'd like those comments to be withdrawn. It's just not appropriate for us to be doing that in our positions.
Councillor Perry, I appreciate your point of view, and I don't think that Councillor Abel deliberately was maligning our solicitor. But I will ask Councillor Abel to rephrase his words and to perhaps be a little more temperate in the future. Councillor Abel?
I agree with you, and I apologize if I pointed out to the solicitor, but the solicitor was asked if she was comfortable. But anyways, I did mean to make her.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion to defer has been withdrawn. We will go back. I had Councillor Abel spoke first. I had Councillor Thompson, Councillor Tom. So actually, if you can clear the list, please, at this point. Hold on. Don't anybody touch your buttons. All right, Councillor Thompson, press your button. Councillor Perry, God, you people cannot follow directions. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Tom. Press your button there. Councillor Perry, now, knock yourselves out. Councillor Thompson, this is on the first time on the main motion.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I think Councillor Humphrey said it best. I mean, we do have a responsibility to let them finish the work. If you think about it, they did what we asked. We hired them to conduct, engagement sessions, gather all this feedback, and present us with an initial concept plan. It wasn't the concept plan. It wasn't the final plan. It was a concept plan. They came forward. They presented a concept plan, and things went sideways at that time because that concept plan didn't mirror the vision that collectively we shared around the table, and there was lots of comments and thoughts about what else we wanted, what was missing, what we didn't like, and so forth. And we've never given them the opportunity to address that, to make those changes and to take all that additional feedback on that concept plan, make alterations, and present a revised plan. We've never given them that opportunity, and now we want to pull the plug and walk away and start the whole process over for whatever that means in terms of cost, time, and so forth. I think that there is a responsibility for us to at least allow them to carry on with steps 1, 2, and 3, take the feedback they've heard that's been passed on to them over this past year, make those alterations, reduce the scope to just Library Square, and then present it to us as stated here in March and April, so that then we can make a decision whether or not that is the right thing for us or not. And, you know, I respect those that say that, you know, they just don't think FO10 will be able to capture the vision that they have, and that's fine. And if that's your feelings, by all means, you know, vote against the motion and stuff. But if not, I do think we have a responsibility to let them finish the process, to take what they've heard around the table, both here and in the community over this last year, revise the plans and come back to us. And I'm hopeful that it will be a better reflection of the shared vision that we as a community and as a council have, and that we'll finally be able to move forward. And so I really urge council, as Councillor Humphrey says, that, you know, to give them the chance to do this, to move forward. Let's see how we can get this, because to start over and go out and find another company and so forth, you're looking at the fall before we start kickstarting anything off, and now we're into election season, and then I have real concerns about this even getting done before this end of term. So I think the best path forward is to stick with the process that we've been engaged in the last 2 years, allow them the opportunity to finish, and then let's make that decision in March or April whether or not it's the right concept for us or not.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. So, you know, Councillor Thompson just mentioned that we have to give them a chance to, you know, align the concept plan or a future concept plan, or as step 2 indicates, 2 alternative concept plans with what council, the council vision is, and that they haven't been given an opportunity thus far to align the concept plan with the council's vision and with consultation. But if we remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this, is that the initial concept plan was presented, there was broad consultation with council and the public, and then the almost identical concept plan was presented to council. And that's when Councillor Thompson notes that it went sideways. That's how the process unfolded, if I'm not mistaken. And during that process, if there was consultation that was somehow not aligned with that concept plan, it certainly wasn't reflected in the final draft that was presented to council. And so, you know, we talk about wanting to move forward quickly on this. My view is, let's say we move forward with FO10 on the first 3 steps of this process as indicated on page 3, and the 2 alternative concept plans aren't to our liking. Well, now we've waited from February to March before we have to go through the process that Councillor Thompson just said will take us into the fall. I think that if we want to move through with these 6 steps, and we want to get an expert on urban design and urban squares and revitalization of downtown, not saying that FO10 isn't reputable, but I think that we have to look at an urban architect of some kind. We could start that right now, that process, as opposed to waiting for FO10 to produce 2 alternative concept plans that we may or may not be okay with. I don't want to delay the process any more than anyone around this table. I'm not comfortable with FO10 based on the past work that we have got from them. I wasn't in favor of the concept plan when they presented it to us initially. Nothing changed from the first time they presented it to us through all the consultation to the end of it, and we decided not to move forward with it anyway. So I'm happy to move forward with these 6 steps as a concept, or as a tonight, so long as it's not tied to FO10. I would like to know, however, what the implications are legally and so forth. We don't really have those answers tonight, so perhaps we can move forward with the 6 steps as a concept, as the CAO has described, and deal with FO10's involvement at a later meeting once we have all those implications before us. But from my view, I would much rather go out and see what experts and other visions that we can come up with and engage with, and not delay the process any more than it has to. Like I said, I'm fine with the 6 steps here, just not with FO10's engagement at this point. So I don't know how we navigate through this. I mean, the recommendations don't specifically say FO10, although the paragraph above it does. So I don't know how we move forward here and what's if there needs to be an amendment put forward or anything like that, I suppose I can listen to what everyone else has to say first, but I think before we do vote, we should know what we're voting on in terms of FOTEN's involvement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, about FOTEN to begin with. I mean, I'm looking at some of the work that they've done, and here's one, a world-class sustainable mixed-use neighborhood in the heart of the nation's capital. It's a redevelopment of the lands. And if I go back, they've done the lands down redevelopment. They've done projects Wellington Street West. So to say that they're not experts or that they don't know how to redevelop, I don't think that's correct to say.
Sir? Hold on. It's not what I said. If you're implicating that was what I said. So I didn't say they weren't experts. I said we need to go out and get experts. Not to say they weren't one. Councillor?
Well, are you ruling on that, or? I believe he said that they, in essence, by saying we should go out and get experts, he's insinuating that they're not experts.
I disagree with that, so can you please?
That's fine, I'll rephrase it. That's fine. Well, in my opinion, they are experts in their field, in my opinion. I agree with Councillor Thompson. I think that we have a contract with them. I think we move forward, we allow them to fulfill that contract. We've come a long way. With the reboot, we engaged the public again. We came up with ideas that basically showed that the last 17 years, everyone's been saying the same thing. We've identified 4 components that we would like to see within that area. And each of us have our own little slight vision for the area. I know, Councillor Tom, you definitely want a historical look to and feel to the area. And Councillor Humphreys, Piazza, Center Square, I'd like to see our tree lighting happen in that area, and so on and so on. And I think those are the things that we need to give FOTEN the opportunity to take that information now that they have and come up with that new final concept for us and give us 2 options. Say, this is what we've heard from council, this is what we heard from the public, this is what we heard from all the committees. We went out to every committee after the first conceptual plan. And so now they have all this new information, and let's allow them to finish their contract, come back to us in March, April. We can take a look at those 2 things, and if they haven't captured what we want, well, then we can say, well, we're not happy with this. And, it might even just be a matter of just tweaking a little bit of what they present us. I'm confident that they will take what we're asking for, and they will give us something that we're looking for. And I think at the end of the day, I think it will be something that we can be proud of as a council, and I think that the community can be proud of. So I'm all in favor of moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Perry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We often laugh that it's taken 17 years to get us to this point. I think sitting around the table, we could all understand and agree that it could take another 17 more if the discussion keeps going the way that it's going here tonight. I have full support for the work that FOTEN has done in the town of Aurora. They've provided us with concept plans, which we all agree are not to be taken to the letter of the law, that they are concepts. They're things to build off of, to provide ideas, to provide context. We've already identified the fact that we all don't agree on 100% of what they've provided to us. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that damages their reputation. We have 17 years of information that they're trying to compile into a concept plan that works, I think, for Aurora 90% of the time, because you won't get 100% buy-in. The 6 steps that are laid out in front of us, I agree with. I'm not sure, to disagree with our CAO, how we could take this organization out of the concept moving forward. it's akin, so the other thing I've heard tonight is a few people say we should give them the opportunity to finish. I disagree with that statement. This is business. This is a business transaction. You wouldn't tell a group of snowplow drivers that we dislike the way that you plowed. We've consulted with the public. We don't like the way you've plowed. So despite the fact that we have a contract for you to plow, we're going to ask somebody else to do the plowing from now on. We don't know who that person is who's going to do the plowing, but they're going to be experts. And we will make sure that those expert plowers plow the way that we want them to. If we look at what we have in front of us, it's 6 steps. I think we're getting off base if we're talking about the organization providing these 6 steps. They've went through a process to receive the tender. If they weren't qualified, they wouldn't have gotten it, regardless of the fact that, you know, there could have been one person submitting, there could have been 100 people submitting. If they weren't qualified, they wouldn't have gotten it. So for me, this 6-step process makes sense. We have a party that we've given the contract to fulfill the rest of this work. It's a no-brainer. We need to move forward on this. And just move on to the next steps. And we have the opportunity to reevaluate after the 3rd to see where we are. And if everyone around the table disagrees with what's been provided to us, that's, you know, it's just for me to make sure that we try and draw a consensus. And so if we all disagree on everything, that's fine. But if we all disagree on one little element here or there of the plan, I think that's good. It means that we're not, you know, it means that it's taken into consideration all of our wants and aspirations, all of the community's wants and aspirations, and, you know, we'll have an opportunity to move forward. So all I want to do right now with this motion is look at these 6 steps and agree on those 6 steps and move forward from there. I think that's the most important thing, and that's what we should be focusing on.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Notwithstanding the lineup here, I'm going to go to Councillor Humphreys and Gartner. I'm going to keep first speakers. Councillor Abel, you're on the second round. Councillor Humphreys. You've been marking your stuff up there like crazy.
I
Good
know.
on
I'm
you.
loving this iPad thing. Okay, so a couple things. I agree with the 6 steps that we need to go forward. I love the timeline. I want us to stick to the timeline as much as possible, and really make a final decision. I believe, you know, in terms of our vendor who is developing the plans it did initially, lots of things were up in the air back then. It's been so long now, but we had a repurposing study going on at the same time, no definite decisions on demolition. We really didn't give them any direction other than, you know, give us some really cool ideas based on what you hear from us and what you hear from the public. And then from there, we took it a further step and had a council, you know, we had the Reboot Project, and we had a council workshop that really got specific. We made a decision, and a big one, to demolish 2 buildings to get that library square. That has been up in the air for years and years. So we've done a great positive step forward. Now what we're asking to do, based on that, is understand the feedback of what we want. We've all said it clearly here. And they need to do these additional things, which will allow them to come up with concept plans, and we can provide that feedback to those plans and build in each and every one of us, hopefully a component that we will really, you know, just adore, and hopefully be, I'm going to be positive, you know, something that'll really meet or exceed our expectations and our residents and businesses. So I really believe it's time to do it. The scope change as well. We gave them a very large scope. We gave them 3 blocks of work. We're asking them in this case to look at Library Square and that's all we're asking them to do. So based on our council workshop and the information we have to date for them, they've got a very specific, focused view to finish, and I think that $20,000 will come in very well spent in focusing in that one area. So for me, it's a good story. I believe that they're going to be able to fulfill our wants, and I'm confident that I'm not even going to think of them not, because at the time, although they had public consultation, there were so many unknowns, and they kept saying it was this concept, and well, if you demolish a building, this can happen, and if you don't, this is what you can do. And so we just threw a big scope of work in front of them, and I think now what we've given them direct, clear instructions on what we want them to focus on, they'll do a good job. And it's a tight time frame here, guys. My other concern is if we, when you look out and you want to scope for other vendors or qualified architects or urban planners, you're looking at RFP process, and the whole thing starts again, and we're not going to see it even near in our term. I think that I do believe, again, with the scope that we're providing them, the direction staff's going to give them based on what we've just decided, they will be successful. So I'm looking forward to moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Kim. I apologize, Councillor Gartner. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's pretty simple what I'm looking for, and I agree with Councillor Tom. I'm looking to go forward with a firm that does nothing but specialize in downtown revitalization projects. I think that's where the mistake might have been made in the beginning. Fotan has a great reputation. Downtown revitalization is not their specialty. That's what I can tell from the research that I've done. I think we owe it to our public to put forward the best possible design, and to me, the best possible design has to come from planners that spend their whole career doing this. And so I am not in favor of going forward with Fotan. And with respect to wasting time, we could, however we decide this, we could be wasting time. At the end of the day, the hope would be for me that this council, before our term, will decide upon a design that the public supports, that we feel is the best possible one for the town. The shovel does not have to be in the ground. We just have to make the decision on the concept plan. And if it takes it 3 extra months to find that right plan, then we need to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no doubt that Fotan is, they've won multiple awards, and I'm sure they're world class. But even world class professionals don't meet their objectives from time to time, and I don't think they or anyone else is much different. And based on the trend in terms of how our contracts have been put together, I doubt that there is much of an out clause, and if there is, it's probably going to be an onerous or expensive one. So I'm fine with moving forward with Fotan, and I never said I wasn't. I'm just not pleased with their first concept plan. We've gone to battle with them this far, and we just can't, given the limited options, we need to go into battle with them. Who knew that we were going to go to war with them, and we had machine guns, and they just had a machete. I think, I liken, my feeling of when I saw the concept plan, and it wasn't just underwhelming. It's like you're hiring a comic writer to just blow the house down in your party, and when you expect a great joke, what came out of it was, why did the chicken cross the road? And you just feel underwhelmed, like this is what I paid for. But they literally did what we told them what we wanted. We wanted the baseball diamond there. We didn't want to touch too much of this. We didn't want too much of that. And you expect a designer to kind of wow you. And you don't, even though you want a box with holes. You want a box with different sizes. And we just got what we literally said we wanted. So, I'm fine with Photan because I don't think we have any other options. It would be nice to have, while they're working on stage 3, to have an alternative option. I don't know what that is right now, but I think we certainly need at least a cycle to think about it on our own, reflect and come back. But I'm fine with Photan, and I'll be rooting for them that they'll come back with something that'll wow us.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Abel, just before I go to you, my name doesn't come up on the list. I hear some of the concerns with Photan, and I can quite safely say that when I saw the original concept design, I wasn't exactly wowed. But it did make me think. It did cause me to change some of the way I think about what could happen. And I think that's a good thing. And we had some interesting discussions with respect to Trinity Church as to how that may or may not fit in. That also is a good thing because it caused us to think differently. And it caused the church to think a little bit differently, and they said, we're not interested in this, but we might consider doing this, which was increasing the sidewalk size to provide a better connectivity between Town Park and Library Square. The interesting thing about Photan is that they're also the correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ramuno, they're also the architect or the designer for the planner for the new Aurora United Church. So I see a lot of synergies in that particular project that they're taking on. I'm trying to think of a word here. And they're very, very focused on bringing forward a project that will fit in the neighborhood, but provide some interesting changes to what the Aurora United Church was. So I have no issues going forward with what we have here. And perhaps, Mr. Nader-Rosny, if I could come to you, there's obviously some council discomfort, I will say, with perhaps assigning steps 4, 5, and 6 to Photan. Maybe there is something that you could suggest that would allow us to proceed at least with steps 1, 2, and 3 with 4, 5, and 6 in the background that might address some of those issues. Mr. Nader-Rosny, would you have any suggestions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it was always anticipated that at the end of steps 1, 2, and 3, we'd come back to council, and at that point, council would decide whether or not to fund the remaining work, which was in and of itself would be a decision on Photan. But if there's also a discussion to be had whether Photan is to be engaged for steps 1, 2, and 3, then what you could do is add a third option to this agenda item, and that third option would be that Photan planning and design be retained to complete steps 1 through 3, so that if you handle each of them individually, first you're receiving it, secondly you're saying you like steps 1 to 6 and the rough timeline, and the third option that you would vote on separately is whether to engage Photan to do steps 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Mr. Nader-Rosny. I think that might be an option for council to consider. Well, I'll let someone else put that on the floor if they're so desirous. But I think it's time for us to move forward. We have talked, like I said, we've talked about this. And the feedback I got from the open house that was hosted here with respect to Library Square was nothing but positive. Nothing but positive, with people not necessarily agreeing with the concept, but very much in agreement with the fact that we were moving forward and we're finally taking some steps. And I think that that's probably a little bit more important than maybe what the final design is at this point. We don't have a final design. That will come. So I will support the recommendation, and perhaps with an amendment with clause 3, as Mr. Nader-Rosny just pointed out. We will start now with Councillor Abel, Tom Maracus, Gardner Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's too bad I used my first opportunity because all I did was start with the deferral, but that's how it goes. So I consider this my first opportunity. You'll consider it my second. I think, first of all, we're doing this wrong. We should be doing an RFP and bringing this out for urban design, and I think we've talked a bit about that. FOTAN was hired to do the cultural precinct within a 60-day period. They were the only ones out of 46 that came forward to do it. At the end of 60 days, or close to 90 days, we extended an extra funding for them to finish off and present to us for January. And now we never got that report, and they are still going to come forward 12 months later to finish that contract. Well, that's mighty nice of them. For me, if we're doing something really good and we're giving $20,000 to FOTAN, for me it's like the big dinner, and we're going to make it with leftovers. We got $20,000 and they're going to bring us a design for our library square. I'm looking at page 3 of our report. Staff have met with their planning consultants, FOTAN Planning and Design, which we just found out now they're still on contract with us, to discuss the next steps in design of Library Square. Well, when we did the RFP, we never asked them to do the Library Square. We asked them to do the cultural precinct. And then they will guide in the preparation of a final design. FOTAN has provided the following work program based on the meeting. So now FOTAN is setting out our schedule for the Library Square. So we're not doing this right. We should be doing an RFP and doing it separately. We should be doing it now. Again, they're doing it in 60 days. We saw what they did in 60 days before. They brought forward development potentials on a piece of property that was for sale on Yonge Street. They brought forward a path through private property on Trinity Church. And then they brought forward a redesign of our park. And now, for $20,000 that's left over, they're going to provide 6 steps going forward for our library square, 2 alternate concept plans. So I saw the concept plan in block 1. It was 3 buildings. One was a 4-story garage and 2 block buildings, residential. The path again, and then the redesign. So we should be allowed to explore other designers and architects going forward to see what we can do with this great square. And it's not delaying. We delayed back in 2013 when we had an option to go forward with a library square demolition and to bring forward a design for an urban square. But instead, we deferred it for 5 months while we explored a fab lab with Seneca, and it didn't work out. So we lost that opportunity. 2015, I introduced a notice of motion to bring forward a library square and design it to get forward. And we didn't go forward with that. We lost our opportunity this term, and we're back here 2 years later almost to now address a library square, which we want to do in 60 days on a $20,000 design budget. So, and we want to do it so that we can get it done before the end of this term. Frankly, that opportunity to do it this term we blew that. It's time just to catch our breath and just say, what can we do together and go forward? I know one councillor here at the table said it's double speak. It's not. It's just a moment to let others participate and give some ideas going forward. The public was not impressed with the FOTAN concept plan, and it was repeated over and over. It's just a concept. And now they're going to come forward with 2 conceptual plans, each $10,000. I have no idea what they can produce on a budget like that. But I would imagine that a budget for something of this importance would cost considerably more. So I would just receive this, and I don't approve, I'm not in favor of rushing through these 6 steps. I don't understand what it is. Well, I do understand, because we want to get something forward for this term. So, I want to do it right. We did it. We went and looked for the Fab Lab. It didn't work out. We went for the cultural precinct to invest and look at a potential development property, and that didn't work out. And now we're trying to put something together within $20,000 and 60 days. So my thought is that we bring it out to an RFP, and that we let that designer and urban designer set the schedule on for how things are going to go. I also brought out concerns about demolition, because there are environmental and financial considerations in the demolition. And one is the impact on carting all the concrete away when you could reuse the concrete in the library. And the other would be the financial implication of carting it away and then bringing back in cement. You could have saved a lot of money in design. So it would be fair for a designer to have all this before them. And I'm wondering if those considerations are being done as well. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm not in favor of moving forward with what FOTAN has provided on their work program based on a meeting with staff. They were hired to do the cultural precinct. I think we have effectively exhausted what the cultural precinct is there. With our reboot, we can draw what we can from it. But I think it's time, after all these years, to now engage an RFP process, and it doesn't have to be long, so that we can have some great ideas and some great designs, rather than ask FOTAN to do something that they weren't asked to do. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. And I did confer with the clerk, and you indeed have one more speaking opportunity. And I just want to make crystal clear that steps 1, 2, and 3 would be coming out of the leftover budget of about $25,000, and steps 4, 5, and 6 would be the additional $20,000. So just so we're clear in terms of what those details are. I have Councillor Tom, and then Councillors Maracus, Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And since it was mentioned by another councillor earlier, I just want to be crystal clear. FOTAN has a reputation. People can go to their website. They're an excellent company. They've done good work. I'm not in favor of, nor was I a fan of, the work they did for us. So that's all I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to impugn their reputation. Clearly, they have a good reputation. They're a reputable company, and they have done great work in other areas. I mean, I guess from my perspective, this comes back to a little bit with respect to this report and the way it's almost incomplete in the fact that it doesn't really speak to what the implications are of not moving forward with FOTAN. I mean, if you recall, in terms of speed, if we all want to make sure we get this done as quickly as possible so that we can finish it in this term, we move forward with FOTAN quite quickly, if I recall correctly. The RFP process for the FOTAN scenario was quite fast. So, I mean, the idea that we can't move forward with an alternative firm or an additional RFP process or what have you is I just don't think it's true, because we did move forward with the concept plan originally on a truncated timetable. But, however, I guess my big sticking point in this is that, you know, we still don't really know what the implications are if there's an opt-out clause or not, and so that's where I'm having a bit of trouble here with this. You know, at the end of the day, I want to move forward with Library Square, and if this motion passes and we are going to engage FOTAN in the manner that the report suggests, I also want to make sure that we get the best work out of them. So I want to make that clear, regardless of how my feelings are at the moment. I want to move forward positively and contribute to a positive outcome for Library Square. So obviously, if this passes, even if I vote against it, I do want to make that clear that I will contribute to any consultation or, to the process moving forward positively. And I do hope success to FOTEN, obviously, if we're going to engage them for the remainder of their contract and potentially moving forward on the other steps. So, but I kind of agree. I think, Councillor Abel made a really good point. The original concept plan that we hired them for has been presented to us, and it has been not adopted. And now we have some extra money, so we're going to ask them to provide 2 concept plans for, $12,000 each, with the remaining $25,000 left on their contract. I mean, the original contract was about $80,000. So we spent $80,000 for a concept we didn't like, and we're going to spend $25,000 for 2 concepts. So, I mean, I just feel at this point in time, the community deserves that we hire the best firm, the best company that we can find, and for the best design for this proposal moving forward. And as I mentioned, FOTEN is a great company, but based on the previous work that we've seen from them with respect to the cultural precinct, I just wonder if it's more advantageous for Aurora to move forward in a different direction at this point. Again, the only sticking point I have is the fact we don't have any answers on what the implications of that will be. So I feel like I'm kind of stuck in the middle on this one. And it's unfortunate because I feel like, we all want to move forward on this project, and we all want to move forward for what's best for the area and for the community. And, this report puts us in an awkward position because, I just feel like it doesn't really answer a lot of the questions that we have. So, like I said, if this moves forward and FOTEN is the firm, I wish them all the successes, but I do feel like we can do better with a different firm.
Thank you. I have Councillor Maracus, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've heard about the original contract and the original design that we were looking for, and if memory serves me correct, we asked for FOTEN to bring us forward a plan that only basically gave them a blank slate and only kept the cultural center, the library, Trinity Church, and the houses along Moseley. And we said everything else is fair game, bring us back something, go wild. And they did what their job was set out to do, and they brought us back something wild. And we didn't really like what we saw. But now we're giving them what the public has said, what we have said, and at the end of the day, the best possible design, the design ideas come from us at the table and the residents, not from the architect or designer. We don't want them designing the vision. The vision should be our vision. And they take our vision and develop it and give us a drawing of what we're asking for them to do. And so if we tell them, here's a blank slate, tell us what you want to do. Well, that's why we got what we got. So actually, if you want to blame anyone, it's us for telling them to give us a design and just go wild. But now we're asking them for specific things. We've identified 4 components. We've identified, they've heard from each of us what individual wants are for the area. And I'm actually looking forward to what they're going to bring forward, because I think that they're going to take that, because that's what a design architect firm does, is they take what your vision is and what your thoughts are, and they paint your picture. And so I'm looking forward to what they're going to be able to bring us. And we talk about they were given the cultural precinct, and this is the Library Square. Well, Library Square is 1 block of the cultural precinct. What we've done is we said, you know what, we're going to block 2 and 3. We're going to kind of set aside, and we're going to wait on it because we're going to focus on block 1. So we want you to focus on that block 1, and that's the step we're doing to move forward. So like I said, I'm all for moving forward. I think it's something that's exciting for this town. And as far as the comments about trying to rush to get this into within the end of this term, if memory serves me correct as well, Councillor Abel didn't have a problem rushing a $20 million project to the JOC last term to get it in before the end of the term. So I'm all in favor of moving forward and getting this done.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'm in complete agreement with what Councillor Tom said, and I'm not going to repeat it. I just would like to note on page 3, a comment that Councillor Abel made. Yeah, we are discussing something different here. We're discussing Library Square, not the cultural precinct. So in any information that's investigated, could you just make a note of that? And step 3, the way it reads is it seems ambiguous to me. Presentation to committee and council and approval to proceed. I think the approval to proceed the wording needs to be changed to approval to proceed or not, or perhaps just take it out of the equation, because to me that implies that we're going to approve it. Mr. Nadarozny.
To you, Mr. Mayor, the intent there was to highlight the fact that it would be at that point that we would come for additional funding and ask FOTAN to proceed on the same path. So it's not proceeding with anything more than the next steps, but we run out of funding at that stage. That's all that's meant to imply.
Thank you. Councillor?
If you don't mind, if it's no extra trouble, could you just make that clear? And to you, Mr. Mayor, I didn't catch what you said about the $20,000.
The steps 1, 2, and 3 would be covered by the remaining $25,000, which is in the budget, $25,000 and change. And the $20,000 would be for steps 4, 5, and 6 if council elected to proceed with that.
Thank you.
Okay. I have Councillor Thompson, Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I think there's one person missing from this debate. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, you've been involved in this project longer than anyone around the table. You've dealt with FOTAN probably more than anybody else around the table. What has your dealings been like with FOTAN? Do you think that they are capable of being able to provide a design for us that may mirror more the current vision that councillors are talking about based on your interaction with them?
Mr. Downey.
To you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I was just asked that same question by the Chief Administrative Officer. So I'm quite comfortable with FOTAN. I think that we have an opportunity to focus their efforts, whereas we didn't really have that opportunity when we were looking at the cultural precinct. And as Councillor Maracas said, we kind of gave them a blank slate and said, tell us what you think, which is what they did. In our conversations that we had with FOTAN, Sarah Miller primarily, we asked that they concentrate their efforts simply on Library Square, and that we were looking for a concentrated effort on what could possibly be accomplished within that area. I believe they have the capabilities of doing so, but I also believe that we have now focused or narrowed their scope. And I am looking forward to seeing what they could come up with. But I have confidence in them. I think that they will provide some interesting concepts for council to deliberate, and it's my hope that there will be certainly something in both of those concepts that council can support and move forward to public and stakeholder consultation, or phase 2 of this.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. I value your opinion, and I appreciate that insight. Having had the good fortune to sit on council a second time. Last term we went through 2 significant projects with the renovation and expansion of the leisure complex, as well as with the JOC, and there were many times, like tonight, where there was conversations and a number of people would say, well, we could do better, we should make some changes, we could do more. There was a lot of what ifs and if onlys and yeah buts, but at the end of the day, I think we look back and for the most part, it's not perfect for sure, but we're glad we went forward. We're glad we built the JOC, because there were those on council that wanted to stop it. They didn't think it was the right decision at the time. And same thing with the leisure complex, especially with the youth center. And while I don't have specific numbers with regards to how often it gets used or anything like that, you know, I've been in the leisure complex enough to see kids using it and enjoying it. And there were those that were opposed to that or thought that, you know, that wasn't good enough or we could do better. But again, you know, it's about doing what you feel is right, and I respect everybody's opinion here around the table. But it is important that we continue down this path and at least finish off the next 3 steps. And as Mr. Downey has eloquently said, you know, help focus their efforts to produce something that hopefully we can all agree with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And perhaps I could ask, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, you put together an RFP process for the cultural precinct and had secured FOTAN in a period of about 3 weeks. And would there be any reason why you couldn't do the same if we put out a call for architects to come forward with urban designs for Library Square and tender that as well?
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the process to engage FOTAN took a little longer than 3 weeks, but because one of the things that certainly council wanted us to come back with was the terms of reference, what you actually wanted the consultant to commit to. So that would be the first step. If we were looking at a new consultant, I think you need to at least have an opportunity to say, this is what we want them to look at, and this is what our expectation is, or these are the products we want them to produce, and get some commitment on that. That would be the first step. And then we could start putting together some tender documents to go out to tender. We are generally out for 2 to 3 weeks. We then would need an approval process, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. Okay, sorry.
Just trying to get a timeline, and you answered the question.
It would at least take another meeting coming back to council to at least go through terms of reference before we can engage somebody.
Several questions, Mr. Downey, and I only have so much time. We do have all those points of reference that we want forward. I mean, that's what the cultural precinct, we have all that in line. So that terms of reference and what would be asked would be very simple to put forward into an RFP process. And again, I explained that would be the proper procedure, because we asked FOTAN for the cultural precinct, and now what we have is a Library Square. And the moving of great projects in our town is something that I'm all for. I mean, I was a proponent for 2 of the great facilities that we built last year, moving forward, all in due process, of course. And my matter is basically just a matter of process, is to make sure it is the best that we can offer. And again, to ask FOTAN to come forward and in a quick time period with very little money or resources for them to engage their staff, it's not fair to them, it's not fair to us. And we can put something together this term. We do have that time still. It's only early in the year, it's only February. We can have something easily before May or June, before our public to have a look at and go forward. So time is really not an essence to look at alternate designs and plans. Councillor Marakis had alluded to the fact that you don't need architects for designs, that the residents have prepared that and councillors can prepare and give a designs, but I strongly disagree with that. I would encourage that we use the best, most resourceful professionals that do urban design and architecture for a project of this scope. To ask council to do that isn't fair. We don't have the skill set to do that. Our best bet would be to make a decision and get an RFP forward to do this. So my thoughts are basically to proceed with what we have had on the table for years, and that is to put a design together and move forward with the Library Square in a timely fashion. And it's always been my my stand, my position on this. It has been since 2013 and again in 2015. I'm not one that wants to stall. In fact, I'm one that would say we have stalled too many times. But we had to go along with the process because that's what council voted at the time. And that's how it is. I can live with that. But I would like to have the opportunity to come back and say, let's move forward and get this design and put an RFP out promptly. We have all the particulars that we want. We've engaged the residents. They know what we want. We can put the terms of reference and something together very quickly. And then we can entertain the best bid. We had 46 people come forward for the cultural precinct. I'll bet you we get as many or more come forward for a library square design. They would come up with funding and timelines and something that would be quite suitable for the scope of the project that we're going forward. To ask FOTAN to come up with 2 conceptual plans next month, I don't think is appropriate for what we want to bring forward. I think we're shortchanging our residents by doing so. I think what's best for our residents is to go forward, as we do in all manners of this projects like this, and that's to put out an RFP with our terms of reference and to move forward with the very best that's available for us in this world and around us, rather than ask someone that we have some change left over and ask them to bring something forward, 2 concepts in a short period of time, like 4 weeks. And again, we should do it because that's the proper process. We asked, as I said, FOTAN, you don't ask someone to do a project and if there's money left over to do another one, even though they may be familiar with the area and stuff. This is the library square. It's different than the cultural precinct. The cultural precinct, we engaged for development opportunities on Yonge Street. That was what we asked them to do. That's what they brought forward. So we need something spectacular for this. And it's not a matter of saying, oh, we're delaying. We can do this in a time frame of a couple of months, complete with an RFP, and engage and make a decision and have something before us in the second quarter. And I think that's what we owe our residents and ourselves going forward to do.
I wanted to speak. You okay with that? We don't have time, right? You're not going to let... Then I will keep it very short and very succinct. I support it. We're going to move. It's time for us to move ahead. Recorded vote, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so this is a recorded vote on the main motion. Mayor Daw?
Do you want us to microphone up now?
Pardon?
Do you want us to use microphones? Oh. No, just say yes.
Sure,
yes. You want the recorded vote recorded? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you do that. I will do.
Okay. Mayor Daw?
Yeah. Yes. I said yes.
Councillor Abel?
Hold on here. Sorry.
Testing, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. No.
Yeah, that's the problem. I will call it, tell you what, I'll call it out. I'll call the names out.
Councillor Kim?
Councillor Kim? Yes. Councillor Kim votes yes. I'll do. Councillor Peary? Just say.
Yes.
Councillor Peary votes yes. Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys votes yes. Councillor Maracas? Yes. Councillor Maracas votes yes. Councillor Tom? No. Councillor Tom votes no. Councillor Thompson? Yes. Councillor Thompson votes yes.
Councillor Gartner?
Councillor Gartner? No. Councillor Gartner votes no.
That carries on a vote of
We still need some changes.
6-3. We
still need some changes in our system. I need a, pardon? We do need a motion to extend.
Yes.
Councilor Marakis? Councilor Thompson's microphone's on. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried. Thank you. Motions? I'm sorry? Will you be back here in 5 minutes? Is that a promise? Motion to recess for 5 minutes. Piri, Tom, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All righty, we are at motions. Item 9. Oh, I'm sorry. Item 9. I can't. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Councillor Humphreys, second. Any comments or questions on that? Oh, hit your button. Councillor Humphreys, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an incredibly exciting initiative, and I'm so thankful that this has come up, and I'm thankful that we're going to be sending this copy of this resolution to our local MPs. But what it, basically is, from a national perspective, national properties, which we have the Hillary House, it's exactly what we talked about a while ago to try to preserve historic buildings in our town, not necessarily national significance, but local significance, municipality. That there's ways to help the owners of these buildings keep them in their glory, but it's really expensive. It's a huge endeavor, and money is usually always a factor on. We're going to try to keep this building and restore it, like the beautiful McIntyre House. We're so excited to have that in town, but this offers a really great initiative in many ways. Throughout, just saving taxes, and also something in terms of, it's called accelerated capital cost allowances, and up to 50% off, deductions over 3 years. It's just a great initiative, so thanks for sending this to us, and looking forward to the support of this bill and it coming through.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? I think it's a great opportunity for the federal government to put some money behind the concept of national historic sites, because they've been rather stingy, certainly with Hillary House. So, call the vote. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried. Thank you. Now, look at that big carried sign coming up there. Moving to motions. Not emotions, hopefully. Okay, Councillor Abel, yours is up first. There is a bit of a challenge with yours with respect to part of it which would require a reconsideration. So I'm going to ask the clerk just to confirm this part, just so that we're all clear. Madam Clerk.
So the first clause of the notice of motion speaks to having staff be directed to report back on options, including costs and timelines to implement the conceptual architectural designs. That's redundant and has been brought back at this point. Therefore, it would be a reconsideration.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Abel, what would you like to do? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to read my notice of motion and then address the concern. Whereas the town of Aurora has declared the old library and the old fire hall both on Victoria Street as surplus properties, and whereas these two properties are known as Library Square, and whereas the town has completed approximately 11 studies on the uses and purposes of Library Square prior to 2012, and whereas during the last term of council, the town in 2013 undertook another study to engage the community as to what uses Library Square might have to better enhance the businesses in the downtown heritage core, cultural activities, and community at large, and Whereas the development of Library Square is documented in the Aurora Promenade Study and the Cultural Master Plan and as a recommended action to be undertaken. And whereas many businesses, cultural community partners have expressed support for the concept of developing the Library Square. And whereas residents and members of council have expressed support for the concept of developing the Library Square. So the first, therefore, that based on the previous study, staff be directed to report back on options, including costs and timelines to implement the conceptual architectural designs. Well, Mr. Mayor, I had engaged conversations.
Councillor Abel, we're not debating the motion at this point.
I'm just addressing what this first therefore is.
No, not yet. It's not even seconded. So if you want to finish reading it, we'll get a seconder and put it on the floor because the first clause has to have a reconsideration. So you need to...
Or I could withdraw it, Mr. Mayor.
Your choice.
Okay.
But we're not going to discuss it.
Why wouldn't I?
Because it's not seconded yet.
So I will just say that it's redundant because there was already a notice of motion in December and we just passed a resolution to go with exactly through with what I had said.
Okay, so it's just going to be clauses, so number 2 and 3, which will become 1 and 2.
Well, let's look at them, shall we?
You read them out.
Well, I have a note here. Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was just handed this as I came in today. Well, I was going to ask that staff report back on options and or terms of reference for formation of a task force roundtable or an ad hoc committee to engage the town's business, cultural, and community partners in the development of the Library Square.
Right.
And this would be more or less along the lines...
Okay, Councillor, we're into debate. It's not seconded yet. You're describing it, so please. And then the third clause?
That staff report back by March.
Okay, so Councillor Abel is withdrawing the first recommendation clause. We understand that? Is there a second for the motion, please? Councillor Gardner? Okay. Councillor Abel? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the opportunity to engage a number of boards on 2 items prior to Christmas, and they were about Library Square and also about my next notice of motion, and there was tremendous interest from community partners and organizations to be involved in the process. They were not aware that there was a call for people to come out and take part in a workshop or be part of the cultural precinct. So they would have welcomed the opportunity, and they expressed thanks for me reaching out to come to them and say, hey, this is a great idea. What can we do and how can we be involved? So the idea was, Mr. Mayor, to get some of our partners, our business partners, community sports organizations, etc., and form a committee and to discuss the development of a Library Square on how the vision would be and to present these back as part of the process.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Other speakers? Henry, Linda, are you taking the first clause off? Okay, that's done. Thank you. Thank you. So looking at the bottom of the screen. Councillor Abel, you finished on that?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's a notice of motion I brought up in 2015, as I had mentioned before, in May. At that time, council decided not to voted it down. So I thought I would bring it back up at the conclusion of the cultural precinct. My intention always was to move forward with the Library Square and to engage the public. But that basically has been resolved. It's still open for the community engagement to be part of the process. And so rather than make an amendment on our item that we put through, I thought I would just address it at my notice of motion. And it speaks for itself.
Thank you. Other speakers to Councillor Abel's motion, please. Press your button if you wish to speak. There being nobody on the speakers list, Councillor Abel, you wish to conclude?
Could I just have a recorded vote, please?
Yes. Thank you. Recorded vote, Madam Clerk. Recorded vote's already been called for. We want to do this again? You got it.
Maybe you just confirm it. I'll call them out. Okay. So this is a recorded vote on the notice of motion regarding Library Square. I guess what was the second and third clause of the original motion. Councillor Humphreys?
Just say it. Don't worry about it. No. Councillor Humphreys votes no.
Councillor Tom?
No. Councillor Tom votes no.
Councillor Peary?
No. Councillor Peary votes no.
Councillor Thompson?
No. Councillor Thompson votes no.
Councillor Gartner?
Councillor Gartner votes no.
Councillor Marakis?
No. Councillor Marakis voted no.
Councillor Abel?
Yes. Councillor Abel voted yes, quietly.
Councillor Kim?
No. Councillor Kim voted no.
Mayor Daw?
No.
That motion is defeated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Abel, the second motion is yours. There is no issues there. If you put that on the floor. In terms of reconsideration, I should specific. Yes, sorry.
Notes here from that were handed to me as well. I'll just read the notice of motion. Whereas the town of Aurora has declared the old library and the old fire hall both on Victoria Park as surplus properties, and where these two properties are known as Library Square, and where this development of Library Square is documented in the Promenade and the Cultural Master Plan, and whereas the four overarching plans and studies, namely the Aurora Promenade Study, the Cultural Master Plan, the Strategic Plan, and the Community Tourism Plan, which all speak to the revitalization of the downtown core. And whereas these plans and studies provide guidelines and recommendations on provisions to develop a downtown revitalization plan through engagement, collaboration, and communication. And whereas many businesses, cultural, and community partners have expressed the need for the revitalization of the downtown core. And whereas residents and members of council, while past and present, have expressed the need to revitalize the downtown core, and whereas the town of Aurora has recently resolved that a new Office of Economic Development be formed, where terms of reference to form a board. Now, thereby be it hereby resolved that council endorse the concept of the development of a downtown revitalization plan. Be it further resolved that the new Office of Economic Development be tasked to deliver a draft downtown revitalization plan in collaboration with a newly formed board before the third quarter of 2017 for council's consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Is there a second for the motion, please? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Councillor Abel.
Well, Mr. Mayor, again, I did engage boards on the downtown revitalization plan and was very well received. I went to the Chamber Board, I went to Sport Aurora Board, Library Board, Cultural Center Board, and the Seniors Center Board, and went to the Ratepayers Association Board, and went through a rough idea of a conceptual plan of a downtown revitalization core as an example, and used documentation through the Cultural Master Plan and the Promenade Study, and was well received, and as well the need, and had a lot of support for all of these organizations and boards, and a willingness to participate and move forward to put together a committee so that we should be able to move forward to address with a plan so that we can make decisions going forward. So, Mr. Mayor, this is basically putting this on the table for the new economic board when it's formed, that it should be one of the things that they consider.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for some clarification on this motion, revitalizing downtown is absolutely what we have to do. We have a number of plans. We have the promenade, the cultural master plan. We have the community improvement plan. And we often get updates from staff on, well, not often, it's been a while now, but, what can we do to invest in the downtown core? And in terms of, I think there's one recently, or not recently, maybe 2 years ago, where they wanted to improve sidewalks and certain things in front of facades for downtown buildings, and it was turned down. So is this more of putting like giving the first plan of action for the Economic Development Governance Council the ownership to take a look at our existing plans and bring forth their recommendations to us with community engagement so that we can bring those plans to life? Because one of the things I find very, very frustrating is we have a number of plans, but the budget and, we decide yes, no, whatever. Do we want to sort of amalgamate these plans and have a timeline and commitment and budget? Is that your vision in terms of what you want to see come out of this? Because I like the idea of putting plans together that we have existing today and then have a board go through and say, how are we going to really revitalize along with the cultural precinct plan in that, the eastern area. So we're putting that all together, and then sort of try to envision, the layer of this plan. If you don't mind, Councillor Abel, if that's okay.
I just want to remind council that we're under the new procedural bylaw. You're allowed 2 times.
Okay.
And it's 5 and 5. All right. So we will interrupt here and go to Councillor Abel to answer that question quickly if we can. We're working on that part of the technology too.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Yes, so the idea is to address what the needs are. So the downtown basically has a number of challenges and then a tremendous amount of assets. So the idea of the traffic on Yonge Street is a very difficult one, and what is resolved in many other establishments with similar challenges is to put a spur. Rather than think of Yonge Street as the downtown core, it's part of it. So Newmarket Main Street is not on Davis, it runs down the Main Street as it's called. It's a spur, and it's done in other areas. So the one I proposed to everyone that seemed to be very well received, and I got it from our cultural precinct, was make Moseley your spur from the GO station to downtown Yonge, and then you would lure long-term traffic on the GO station. It would be like a subway station. People would get off, they look down Moseley, they walk down past the park, the Library Square, then they go and enjoy the shops and the restaurants on Yonge Street, and then you would look at the Foundry area or the Basketware. That could be like your distillery area, so you would create interest and a Christmas thing there and all kinds of things like that, and then that would be how you would create pedestrian practice. And so that was what I started to introduce as why we would want to engage and get ideas and move forward with a downtown plan, so that when we address things and look at things like
okay, I'm going to.
Okay, so
I got to go back.
That's
to
a brief.
Councillor Humphreys?
Good.
You okay? You're good? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. With the greatest respect, I kind of see this as a little bit redundant in my perspective. I mean, first off, we approved the terms of reference for the Economic Development Corporation, and one of their key objectives is the downtown revitalization activities and so forth. And so it's already part of their mandate, it's part of their key function to do what the second clause is speaking to. And so, so I do see a bit of redundancy there because we've already given that direction. I also, having served on EDAC last term and, been on council, we've always talked about downtown revitalization, and I guess the challenge that I'm having with the way it's worded here is the development of a downtown revitalization plan, which kind of, assumes that we don't have one, and we do. We've always had one. right? We don't have a glossy document titled the Downtown Revitalization Plan, but the Promenade Plan speaks to downtown revitalization, and so does our strategic plan, and as Councillor Humphreys mentioned, so does the Streetscape Plan, the Community Improvement CIP Plan we approved. These are all components, and you know, at EDACT and elsewhere around this table, we have talked about them being puzzle pieces, and we have done a number of different initiatives that all speak to downtown revitalization. It is a combined effort. And so, you know, if somebody wants to, you know, collate those into one glossy document and call it a downtown revitalization, so be it. But, you know, I wouldn't want the community to think that we don't have a plan. We've been talking downtown revitalization for 6 years, but have no plan. And that makes us look a little bit inept. And so I am challenged with that. And I'd like to ask staff, through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, you know, I know Mr. Arillo isn't here, but do you feel that we don't have a plan for downtown revitalization?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, Councilor Thompson, you mentioned a number of their plans. We do have our Promenade Secondary Plan, which identified redevelopment area, key development areas within our downtown Yonge Wellington corridor. We have a couple other programs in place as well. You've mentioned them all.
Councillor?
Now, I'm not saying we can't do more. There's no more initiatives. I know there are still some that the Promenade Plan alludes to that we haven't touched on. There's probably other initiatives that other communities have tried as well, and we can continue to do more. And that's where I see that Economic Board being, you know, a catalyst for developing some of those initiatives and keep them going. But, you know, we have a downtown revitalization plan. Maybe we haven't done a good job of implementing it or enacting some of the different strategies that are out there. I mean, if you look at our strategic plan, the key words are continue to promote and support the revitalization of our downtown. And so, you know, we've been trying to it. Library Square, Cultural Precinct Plan, whatever terminology you want to use, is part of that. You know, it's one of many different strategies we've engaged in. But, you know, from my perspective, you know, can we improve on the downtown revitalization that we're doing? Absolutely. But I struggle with the words of the development because I think it sends a message that we haven't had a plan for the last 6 years.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I had Councillor Maracas next, and then Councillor Gartner. Nope. Sorry, I apologize. Councillor, you were on the list and came off. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. Could I just ask through you or to you, when, or to Mr. CEO, when do we hope this new economic development person to be in place?
Mr. Nader-Rosny.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, sorry. Our intention, we're just in the final stages of the job evaluation for the new position, so I expect the posting to go up soon and be up for 3 weeks, and so I would hope within the next couple of months we would have some qualified candidates.
Councillor?
And is that in that job description that we're advertising, or in your idea of what that person is going to do, is the downtown revitalization going to be one of, or the primary focus to begin with? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Nader-Rosny.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the position is not specific to the downtown revitalization, although we certainly expect that person to fulfill some of the components of a downtown revitalization. So some of the things such as a BR&E, the business visitation program, things like that support the downtown revitalization, but it's not solely assigned to that person.
Councillor?
You know, the motion is speaking to something that's important to all of us, which is how do we revitalize the downtown core? And so that's the question. How do we revitalize the downtown core? Through you to Mr. Nader-Rosny, I know you can't do everything. You can't do everything and know everything. But how do you see us going forward as the council to try and make a difference in our downtown?
Before I direct that to Mr. Nader, I'm just going to jump in. If you refer to item R1 tonight, page 4, the top bullet, making recommendations to council on funding and grants to advance downtown revitalization objectives. So it is in here. That's the board. And, well, the economic development officer would be working in conjunction with the board.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So again, it's important to highlight the difference between the staff position and the board oversight role. The staff position is to support the existing complement of staff that we have that are already doing economic development activities under the leadership of Mr. Arullo. And the clause that the mayor spoke of speaks to the mandate of the board to oversee and to provide advice to staff and to council on downtown revitalization as just one of the things it's going to look after. So I would envision that a board would get established. A board would first consider its own strategic plan on behalf of council and the community for economic development in a broader sense. And one component of that economic development strategy would certainly, I would think, in Aurora's situation, include a downtown revitalization plan and specific tactics within that plan.
Councillor. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, working in the industry, downtown revitalization plans are things that take place fairly regularly. And
Councillor, I apologize. I have to jump in. We need a motion to extend. It requires unanimous support, by the way, under the new procedural bylaw. So I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor, who's moving? Councillor Perry, Councillor Thompson. So, all in favor. Requires unanimous support. Contrary? Fails. Madam Clerk, we need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, please.
Who voted against?
Councillor Abel. We need a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Tom, second. Councillor Perry, all in favor. I'm sorry. I'm sorry? Yeah, we do have to do, I apologize, you are correct, Councillor. We need bylaws and confirming bylaw. Would someone put the bylaws on the floor, please? Second, Councillor Perry, all in favor. Contrary, that is carried. I apologize for my misstep there. Confirming bylaw, please. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Kim, second. All in favor. Contrary, confirming bylaw. Contrary.
What happens if we vote against adjournment?
It's we can't continue. It's automatic. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Contrary? We are adjourned.